Let's see what this spread looks like here and who's going to get that first frag to kick things off.
Absolutely. As you're seeing, great job by the observers to let us look at the map for the entirety of the drop. We already have 2 teams at thermal, 3 teams at sorting. The observers to let us look at the map for the entirety of the drop. We already have 2 teams at thermal, 3 teams at sorting, a few teams going southeast, but really kind of getting, as Lulu talked about, into their normal drop spots. Yeah, really the big thing we're going to be looking for here is anyone that has to make, those longer treks. Of course, the thermal teams are going to have a little bit of tiny looting advantage, maybe give it 20 seconds or so, but we did just see an early beacon there coming in at Fragment East. We'll go ahead and see exactly where that might pop up, but get that info as soon as we can. But we do see the circle pulling pretty far east here. And now, actually, I did get that beacon off screen, and we did see it looks like it's pulling right in between Sorting, Geyser, Harvester, right in that open area right around there.
We're going to be taking a look now at, you got new Hunter Foydy as well as Yuki, and I believe that is going to be Dipitize, the squad here. Again, for myself personally, not all that familiar with, and as we've kind of just continuously talked about here, not all that familiar with a lot of the players. But despite that, though, certainly won't let that ruin what could be a good time. Let's learn about them. Area right around here, man. This area is just going to be a hotbed. People just scrambling for coverage as more and more shots start to come through. Click needs to be careful now. A lot of these players having low or no shields left. Paradox going to try and maybe challenge his fight. Only has a sliver of shields remaining. Baker coming around the corner. That's going to be a Dipitize as well as Yuki inside. They're getting pushed now. Alternator, Peacekeeper going for a real CQC type play now. Looking to block the doors. Smart play as well, just keeping coverage on the doorway. And in case they do push in with a kick, that Arcstar will be there to meet them as soon as that door goes wide open. Yuki's backing away. They're playing around that generator. Dipitize needs to be careful now. His Dip is looking to live up to that name, to dip, dive, dodge, dip, and dive some more, but it seems like it is not working out for them. This fight, though, prolonging And you got to give credit where credit is due. Bravo to Yuki and Dip for just keeping themselves in this one, because my goodness, this has gone on for such a long time. He loses out on his teammate, and that is going to be the end of that squad. A bit of a rough battle there as they got pincered for that team. Rough situation indeed.
Yeah, a rough battle indeed. And what's interesting to note here is that these teams that looks like fairly, they dropped, you saw, they really don't have an excuse of why they got caught in Thermal train station the way that they just did, because anyone who's here almost certainly dropped Thermal. They were one of the first 3 teams dropping Thermal, and as you saw from that southwest really to kind of northwest-ish drop, the teams at Thermal have no excuse for not looting faster and getting closer to that central. You already see so many teams on the feed there. They're cozied up at Sorting, they're cozied up at Lava City North, Geyser, and the Ridge. If you're at Thermal, you need to loot quick, you need to be very disciplined on your path, and you need to get out of the train station way before this. As you can tell, just based off of the comp of the teams right now, there was no excuse to be stuck in a battle right there early game. It's an early exit for them, and they're not going to be happy about that.
Yeah, the difficult part about competing in such an environment like this is that you have to determine quickly what that path is going to be, what that early rotation is going to look like. You also need to pray to the loot gods that they give you everything that you need in order for you to properly execute. And it seems like we're going to have Na'Vi now on screen, as they're over by one of my personal favorite drop spots, Geyser. And you got yourself a little bit of a rift that's going to be coming out now. Let's see how this ends up working. Players are going to be inside of there. I don't know if you saw that, but Na'Vi knows this, and they're going to take advantage of this. Needs to be careful as they push on through. Players are going to be located down the halls inside of the Geyser. R99 out and in play. Na'Vi is going to be able to get at least one down now. Let's see what the rest of the squad can do. Bubble's going to play out here, and an alternative bubble for Na'Vi is going to be in play too.
Yeah, really nice. I mean, take a look at this comp also. Running a Gibby Crypto is Na'Vi. So not only is Na'Vi back after their notable absence from Online Tournament 2, but they're running the Gibby Crypto here, which is something we really haven't seen since January scrims or so. So we'll see if this is going to work out for them.
Got Faizu here having to back away. And the shots have actually or the battle, I should say, has actually kind of slowed down a little bit. This is going to be post-kill in the squad. A new team is what this team is called, funny enough.
Yeah, I like these guys a lot. This is one of my teams to watch, certainly in Europe, if we look at this. Mainly, I mean, they're coming in with the 2nd seed from their semifinal, 29 kills in their semifinal rounds. 34th in Online Tournament 2, but of course, those are names that we've been watching throughout competitive Apex, and excited to see what they can do with this squad here. Kashera, post-kill, and ASCII, of course, formerly a lot of those players playing under the Lazarus banner. 19 squads remaining. Obviously, haven't really lost all that much yet, besides one team. That is to be expected, especially when you're discussing high-tier Apex competition like what we're seeing here today. But Na'Vi, one of the squads that I have listed that we should be watching out for. I know a lot of people are excited. You also have a team that's going to be fighting outside of zone and potentially even being gate-kept. This is going to be them. So this is, and you mentioned this before, Bravo. You talked about it, right? Noob Hunter, Yuki, and Dip, right? Being outside of the zone the way that they are, they're going to get gate kept right outside. And if you're new to watching this stuff, what that means is that there's going to be a team located right outside of the zone, of the safe zone, that will be keeping away anyone that is trying to push forward. This is essentially a rough situation for this squad to be in because, well, they can't get back in. They're stopping them from being able to get back in, and it looks like this could be the end for the Riders of Rohan in game number 1 if it keeps on going like this. They may have to go for a wide rotate out left. Thankfully, the thing that's working in their advantage is that they're not going to be getting ticked for all that much damage. They did lose out on Yuki, though, and because of that, well, they will be able to get the pickup. So smart play there, and I think Dip may have actually ran into somebody on the other side. Yeah, that was going to be Kohia right outside, and yeah, no, this is basically... I mean, this pick your poison at this point. You can run one way and get shot. You can run the other way and get shot. I don't know, Bravo. It's just not looking good either way. No, it's a really difficult move. And like we said, you don't want to be on that late rotate from Thermal, even though they might have won the battle over at the Thermal train station. They still have this very difficult route. And I tell you what, also keep in mind, they're coming through pretty much the land right by the tree, coming around the choke, and having to push up into sorting now. That's also going to be difficult, so they certainly have chosen a uphill battle, and I mean that in more ways than one. They're going to try to make this route all the way up into sorting as they went north over towards the Harvester side of that choke, and now down towards Tree once again.
All right, and now another top team that's on everyone's radar, Kababrila. As you got Kuya is going to be pushing up now. Was able to get the cleanup earlier, and they're going to be fighting outside of the zone. A bit of a dangerous fight for Kuya to take as he's going to go down. His teammates will be safe for the time being, though. Leo going to be getting an angle here on the player above ground with that scout, just getting to clean up if they can, just to get those kills registered. Kills are very important here in competitive Apex. And I'm actually impressed that Noob Hunter Folty was able to stay in this one, man. You know, maybe the Riders of Rohan, maybe Folty can keep this squad alive, and the Riders of Rohan can live to fight another day.
Absolutely. By the way, huge fan of the Riders of Rohan name. They're going to be asking what business an Alpha Dwarf and a man have in these lands as they push across through. But now taking a look also at just exactly where everyone's held up. One of the things I want to point out as we take a look at the new beacon that's just come in, we still have a tiny corner of Geyser, a little bit of Lava City, and still a tiny bit of sorting in. So essentially this next close is not going to be the biggest. There's still all of that yet to come.
I just love how you were so subtle with that. Subtle and quiet with that whole thing.
That's the first thing. When I saw the Riders of Rohan, I was like, Riders of Rohan! I got real excited.
I know.
We'll have to see how they do here, though.
It works. Well, so far it ain't really working out for them all that much, though. Now, Kuya is actually going to get an Evo shield, and this is going to be Kababrila taking those fights outside. You're going to start getting ticked for a little bit more, but they will be able to get back in. Should be okay there. We'll check in with them for the time being. Now you got FA kids on your screen. And what are the FA kids going to do? Hanging out, living their best life here. Is they're just, you know, chilling inside of buildings. This is ultimately, you know, as we continue to get, you know, smaller and smaller safe zones, right? You're going to see players that just bunker inside, throw up those fences, right? Get a little building going on, living out you know, their building lifestyles. Maybe they played a little bit too much Animal Crossing, perhaps. Who knows?
Could be.
You know, I've been placing fences like a crazy person, so this is, you know, this is the life that they choose to live here, and I respect it. You want to hold down a building, you know, at a high level. You just want to be able to hold down a location there and prevent anyone from being able to push you and forcing fights against you.
Yeah, they're going to be playing Edge right now, and I like the fact that they got an early. You can tell based on their armor that they rotated very early, right? They're playing on double whites. That means that they prioritized location over a longer loot path, and so far it's paying off for them. And they're also in the the less advantageous position of Lava City North just right now, because they're going to have to move a few seconds earlier than the team that is just a little bit further west. So we're almost certainly going to see a battle there. Things could even get interesting between Lava City North and Geyser Choke. That's certainly an area that I'm keeping an eye on. But like I said, this next close in 20 seconds is going to be one of the bigger ones to watch for the next ring, just because that's when we're going to see teams that are going to be forced out of several key places here. They're going to be forced out of the sorting station entirely, and we'd have at least, the last time I looked at OBS, I know we're going to have at least 3 teams. Would not be surprised if we had 4 teams kind of taking up the top stairs on each side, as well as some of the lower levels. The teams that have the top stairs might also have some rooftop access. We're seeing actually now right here, perfect job by the observers to give us a look into sorting station, but also the teams that are in the buildings that are just in the north of Lava City as well. All those teams are going to be forced to move, and we are headed to a very open circle here for our game number 1 in Europe, GB.
Oh, always a fun one. Always a fun one. All right, well, you got Post-Kill back on this screen again, along with the rest of his squad here. This is going to be Ask as well. ASCII, a new team, as we had mentioned before. This team got into a few tussles early on, but it seems like they have been able to come out of this relatively unscathed, hanging out toward the edges of Geyser. And that, yeah, you're right, Bravo. That opening, man, that is going to be interesting. This is really where I think where the Gibraltar, the Gibbies are going to shine here for their teams, just giving themselves some protection as they push forward, dropping down their barrages. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure you saw that new circle on screen just now. This is what I'm talking about. Everyone is going to be thrown. The only team that has any real estate in, believe it or not, in a crazy turn of events is not too far off of these guys here that were just on screen, the former Lazarus team, now going under the name of new team, as we said. But now look at that on the OBS feed. Everyone will be forced out of sorting, out of any Geyser buildings, and the only actual building interior that we saw just in, I believe, is the westernmost corner of the westernmost building in Lava City North. So this is going to go from 16 to down to the last few squads very, very quickly on that next move. We got about a minute 13 before things get hot and heavy.
All right, over under. How many are we going to be left with at the end of this one? Chat,
man,
you can go ahead and chime in as well.
I think based on this, so keep in mind, there's a lot of elevation change along where the track of this next final circle is going to go. So between the top of the tracks, the bottom of the tracks, and then each side of the cliffs, I think we're going to go down to I think we're going to see this halved at least when all these engagements are said and done. We're going to be certainly looking at something like maybe 8, but we'll have to see exactly how that plays out. 41 seconds before everyone's going to be forced out of sorting. They've been real cozy all game, GB, but they are going to have to move soon.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, they've been good friends. You know, everyone, good neighbors. Everyone's taking ownership of their land, holding it down, right? Watering the crops. But now it's time to leave. Now it's time to leave, and this is where you see who has what it takes to be able to take game number 1. The pressure is certainly going to be on. Here is we're going to be taking a look now at this will be RCO, and
absolutely
only a few seconds left here, folks. And then get ready for the war to begin, because all these rotations are going to have to happen. And look at how much of that open space is available. That is scary for anyone that, honestly, anyone that doesn't have a Gibraltar on their team to be able to give them those brief moments of respite. It is going to get hot and heavy in just a bit.
Absolutely. Everyone getting forced out of sorting. Look at this. You're going to see team here, Third Impact, not wanting to move until they have to. They're going to take that TP, which is going to get them over the fence. They're still going to have to fight out through this quite a bit.
All right, and this is RCO now using their Pathfinder zip line, just trying to juggle up and down. Team players are going to be right below them. This is Ida is going to be pushing around now. His teammate's going to go down. I believe that is going to be Godolphin playing the Wraith for them. That will be hanging out outside. And you got Oxbow along with Bryn. They're going to get challenged as well, being able to stay up for the time being. Look at that circle. Look at that circle right on the just the worst possible area that you could have there. Maybe what could be worse if it was just all open area. At least there is some kind of terrain to be able to play around, but Sadiyama's going to get the final kill there, and that is going to be one onto Feldern. Goodbye. You're out of here. Try again in game 2. And now you're just hugging these rocks, hoping that no one's going to be challenging you around the corner. If they do, Sadiyama's going to have that Peacekeeper and the Wingman to punish, but no teammates to help him out here, so he's going to be flying blind solo.
Yeah, this is Sadiyama here from the Dead Inside team. They finished 3rd in their semifinal, coming in pretty strong. So he's going to have to try to rat out as much as he can, try to get some points on the board. So I was a little bit off, GB. You could say we got 10 squads left here, but still the lobby, thinning out real quick. The only saving grace here, as you mentioned, is the fact that there is not only the terrain change, but also just simply so much rock cover down here that a few partial and full squads are still playing behind. And now, as we said, things are going to move in 23 seconds over to that a little bit further towards Lava City, right on the tracks. And any team that is still holding down what's just east of that is going to have a little bit of an advantage, because they're going to have a slow circle and a lot more teams pouring in towards them from the west and the north.
It's all coming down to the final moments here. This is going to be Gamers Origin. As you take a look here, you got Sirius as well as Osen, and let me switch on over to Sadiyama, who has, again, just continued to just live in this area as his zone is going to be pushing in behind him. He has to be careful taking shots from up ahead. This looks like it's going to be the end for them. Goodbye, and a good try for sure. Now he got Gambit here, playing a little bit on the low ground.
This is where you want to be. This is beautiful.
Yeah, this
Take
is
a look
actually
at where,
a great spot.
I mean, they got this early, as you'd expect. They're holding down that area so well. They're all fenced up, and they have such great angles. Also have pre-zips ready to go. And now scouts as well. They're going to be able to nade down. Take a look at this here. Now is Kuya team looking good right on with that angle on Gambit.
Yeah, this is going to be Kababrula, one of the top teams that we all said you got to look out for in this competition here, and for due reason. They're holding it down. 4 squads are going to be remaining here. I saw that Gamers Origin were actually able to pick up a clean sweep on one of the teams that were located nearby. It's getting down to the wire here, folks. You got Myth. We didn't really talk about them all that much in this game so far, but they're still very much in this battle and very healthy at the high ground. There were players, look at that player just poking up their head just ever so slightly. You got to watch out or else you might get a haircut. But Myth, this is a great spot for Myth to be in, honestly. I would be shocked if they end up losing this one out. I mean, the only thing really is that they need to watch out for any potential Gibby ults that could come through. I think, they saw the Gibraltar on the other side. But what is Gambit going to do here? I mean, hopefully they have a zip line to be able to get up. I didn't check to see, but
Yeah, we
Scan
didn't get a
down.
look at that.
It's going to be nuts.
Yeah, we didn't get a look at that ult just yet. Presumably they are going to have to zip up. We'll see exactly what form that takes, but also looking at Gamer's Origin. Gamer's Origin not looking too strong, not looking too bad here as well, as they're still going to have an okay angle. But this is all going to, the only thing I'm most surprised by is that an L-Star has been brought into the late game. We'll see how that works out for the Myth side.
Hey, man. Stranger things have happened. All right, yeah,
2020.
so that was the Gibraltar ult that was just used by Gamer's Origin. I don't think that I don't think the Gibby intended to go through there. No.
And here you go. They're going to have to make the move. Right now, TP is out. They're going to be ready to take that. And here they go. They're going to go through it. Now this is going to be it. Bubbles are going down.
Oh, man, right. Tried to get through that bubble, but it did not happen there. You're going to have Myth playing on the outside. The bubble's going to be out and right in front of them there. They got nothing to be able to protect themselves, but Myth is going to start to get just laced up with some shots. But Amaz does get that kill onto Kuhia on the outside. Rotation now going to be happening onto the right. Look at this here. This L-Star so devastating when you get up close on someone. 3 squads are going to be remaining here, but so far this is looking fantastic for Myth. Only 1 squad remaining, and they're going to be right in front of him. That's going to be Amaz just trying to hold things down here. Busting out that L-Star, but it's finally going to get knocked down. It'll be down to the final player here to be able to clutch this one out, but it's going to be Ziki with that wingman trying to back away. We'll have the full shield as he goes in for the grab. I can't believe it, holding it, but no! And I think one of them does have that gold shield, knockdown shield, but that is going to be a wrap. GG, what a conclusion to that game, and what a clutch play to go in there and grab that purple shield right at the last second to keep themselves in this. But that is going to be a wrap, folks. Wow, what a game.
Pretty amazing. Actually, that's an end circle that we saw not only in scrims, we also saw it in online tournament number 2, and that's one that we've been kind of keeping an eye on. And surprisingly, if you look at how the circles have been changing, that's one that we also saw back in December timeframe as well in GLL quite a bit, that northern Lava City, as things can get really, really nuts there. But in the end, you got to talk about just the way that the guys on Cabrera, he thought Ziki had it at the end, but unable to do it, as we go ahead and take a look. Take a look at the exact standings as they come in. By the way, Gambit, of course, was the team in that battle that did get third. And it's going to be Third Impact that gets the first spot there. In the end, Val and G, Forsaken, and Fieldern.
Big win for them.
Pretty amazing stuff. I thought Ziki had it, but unable to close it out. But one of the things that let Myth stay alive so long, and they end with 4th, was the fact that they had that late bubble as well. So really, when you have that open area and 2 Gibby teams, it's about which team can, just by a second or 2, make sure to get the second bubble down. They're going to have that little bit extra cover to engage whichever way they want.
A little bit of a chaotic end game there, but it is going to be Third Impact that ends up picking up the victory. So congratulations to them. That's going to be a wrap on game number 1. For now, though, let's send it back to our analysts to break it all down and really just go over what we just saw. Jameson, back to you.
Whew. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Yeah, great first game coming out there. One of our teams to watch. We saw there actually 2 of our teams to watch their Third Impact, along with Cabrera.
Yes.
we spent the last 20 minutes just practicing that, by the way. And luckily for us, they made it to at least top 4. But that was top 2, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an absolutely banger of a finish. And we were all surprised, right? These circles were absolutely nuts there.
It gave me anxiety. That is a hard circle, you know? You have to be in the right spot in kind of, you know, they practice this circle in scrims and they've seen it before, but oh my goodness. You can get, you know, the short end of the stick so easily with that circle.
Yeah, I mean, one of the teams that did end up getting the short end of the stick was definitely Gambit there, getting stuck on the low, the ultimate low ground there, and just had no game plan other than to kind of yeet it onto the bridge and try to survive. But But it was such a difficult spot for them. Real quickly though, hold on 1 second. I got to do something real quick so we can have our next segment, and I think it should be live, but we should have it ready. But here we go. It was crazy, right? We had 4 teams at the end there, and we were expecting Bravo himself expected that by the time we got to maybe the end of the 4th circle, that it would have been much more of a blood show, right? There was going to be a lot more havoc and chaos, but it was interesting enough. If we can go ahead and take a look at the telestrator, there we go. And so we saw that, like, the way the first circle worked, that it was such a wide circle, but everyone expected it that for it to pull down to the south here. You can see that we do have the first circle here, and then we have the second circle here. Now, the interesting part was that once we moved from the second zone down to the third zone, it stayed at 16 squads. I believe one person might have died during the closing of this. But just the simple fact that there are so many buildings that were left and people were able to kind of sneak their way on in. Now, once we got to the next one on over, where it shifted pretty hard to the east side, I believe, like it kind of went over to this direction here, we were expecting a lot more bloodshed. But of course, teams just know how to rat. They just know how to find whatever, any little spot of cover that they can use. And so we kind of got down to about 10 squads left. I think around 29 players left here. But it was the final circle that kind of spelled defeat for a lot of people. As let me go ahead and clear this real quick, zoom on in. But as it got closer and did, of course, hold on one second. There we go. All right, figured it out. Once we did get closer to the final circle, where we ended up with 4 teams left, this is a circle that we had mentioned that we do know how to play. We've seen a lot in scrims, but ending basically, excuse me, right here on this corner, a little bit of the bridge was in, but again, it was Kababala that was in a really great spot. We were talking about it, where they had Gambit on the low ground beneath them, who were absolutely trapped. Kababala were still in that kind of middle ground before they had to peek on over, but they were safe there because on either side they had third impact, and I believe it was Myth. So we had one team that was holding position like up here and another team that was holding position here. Neither of those teams had the initiative to try and make a move on Kababala. So Kababala had free shots onto Gambit below them. If either team moved from their position to try and peek over at Kababala, the other team on the other side of the ridge would have taken them out, which is why we kind of saw Gambit just kind of forced into a really bad position. I think in chess it's called Zugzwang, where you're forced to make a move that's going to be an absolutely bad move, and that's what would happen. I believe the Pathfinder from Gambit peeked on over, jumped on over, got taken out early on. And then, of course, we were treated to that last. How often do we get to see it? Was it a Watson versus a Watson there? Both coming down to like 10 HP. It was just one shot, next shot wins.
Yes.
The hip fire wasn't working, but it was an absolutely nuts finish.
Oh, they were so the punches. I love seeing I love seeing the punching in the last 2 people.
Okay, it was actually the Wraith. The Wraith, that was the last one. But yeah, again, though, congratulations to Myth for taking that victory. But I was watching a lot of their feed throughout that, because we do have all the other observers that we get to see here at home. And yeah, they've been holding that position. They were holding that kind of dome respawn area basically since Ring 2. And that's kind of like, I think, one of the characteristic play styles of EU, right? A lot of teams, even though not everyone's running a Jibby, sometimes you just don't have full information. You don't have the beacons. Maybe you don't know exactly where the end circle is. But we see a lot of teams playing edge and kind of just waiting it out and slowly walking in with the circle.
Yeah, I mean, playing edge, that can be, pretty risky, but it seems to work out. More so in EU. I feel like you see more NA people heading towards center circle. They're going to get position early, but it worked for them. They did a good job.
No, we were, of course, talking. We didn't really get to talk about the stylistic differences, but yeah, there are a lot more Gibraltar players, definitely here in EU. NA, it's a lot more path teams, and like you had mentioned, playing center circle, trying to, on that first rotation, before the first ring even starts closing, getting into the center of where you predict the ring to close. Even if you don't have a beacon, you just kind of, it's a coin toss, and you try and risk it all to go for that final win. So again, positioning is so important. It all starts basically within the first minute and a half of the game after you drop.
Yeah, and bad positioning, honestly, that it can cost you the game. It really can. And that's something that you see them practicing in scrims. They're going to practice perfect rotations into the circles. They're going to memorize where circles pull to the best of their knowledge, and that's a skill that can carry you to the top.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the harder things right now to do, right? Because you could at least beforehand, before the swap on over to Kings Canyon, you're able to at least get into ranked, and normally you rely upon ranked to get you to like ring number 6, ring number 7, so you would be able to have a little bit more experience and knowledge with how the ring's behaving this week. But now that we've hopped on over to Kings Canyon, you're only able to play ranked on Kings Canyon and pubs on World's Edge, you don't have that same experience. World's Edge pubs end what? By the end of the second ring?
Yeah.
Third ring? You don't get to the late game. So it comes down to just having depth of knowledge, as we do have the results from game number 1. Myth is going to walk away with 20 points, of course taking away 12 points from first and 8 KP. But Cababrilla is right behind them, Lulu, with 19 points, 10 of those from KP.
This is where it's a sweet balance of placement, but getting kills too. And you see that with them being only 1 point behind in second place.
Yeah, and I think you kind of attribute that to when they were playing Edge, right?
Mm-hmm.
We saw them early on in ring number 1, where they were edge guarding. I forget exactly which team it was. Let me see if I have the roster here. I believe, yeah, it was the Riders of Rohan. We were talking about that. We were talking about Lord of the Rings and everything during the break with Rain Day and them. But yeah, it was Riders of Rohan. They were just edge guarding them. They did trade away, I think, because they took the trade right there at the respawn beacon. They were able to just respawn back on in, get him back on in, and then end up getting those kills. And that's the difference maker right there. Getting those early game kills. Is huge. And that's why we only see a 1 point differential between first and second right now, between Myth and, of course, Cababrilla there. And so now we do have, of course, game number 2 ready and waiting. This time around, though, we've got Rain Day and Fallout ready to drop. Boys, go ahead and take it away.
Here, joined alongside Rain Day. Pleasure to be bringing you guys game number 2 action. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing this morning? I got my espresso. I'm ready to go. You know, you got to get caffeinated and get hype if you're going to watch some ALGS. 100%. You know what I'm saying?
Especially if you're chilling in Mirage's lounge here, his bedroom in the dropship. You got to be as caffeinated as possible. You have to have all the energy in the world if you're going to drop and make the performance and the impact that Mirage makes on Apex Legends. Yep. We're getting ready for game number 2 here. Looks like the action is underway. The dropship is sending, and players are descending as we're getting ready to kick off game number 2. Of course, after game number 1, Myth in first place, Cababrilla in second, Gamers Origin in third. 3 teams that we saw in online tournament number 2, proving that consistency and experience is key here in competitive Apex right now.
I think you look at consistency is probably the most important thing when you look at competitive, gaming in any regard, but especially in a battle royale. And that's what most players coming into this understand, that it is about how you do these things over and over and over again. And whether you work as an athlete, whether you work as someone in any traditional job, you understand that doing things consistently well over a period of time is how most success happens. It's not overnight. So these players really understanding that, getting to these early rotations as much as possible, trying to repeat these actions so it become just a part of the pattern of how they play versus trying to wait and just get lucky every drop. That's what you'll see the difference in most of your pro play games versus just a casual drop that you'll have in World's Edge.
Yeah, that's a great call out. And if again, 3 teams that place top 3, we're teams for online tournament number 2. We also have some newer faces to the finals here this time around. We have Click, Dead Inside, the Powerpuff Bruvs. I'm excited to see what Powerpuff Bruvs can do as a team with a lot of skill, and they've always been so close so far, never had a chance to qualify for the finals. This is their first appearance in an online tournament final. So a lot of new faces that have a chance to prove themselves. Cababrilla was kind of our new face in online tournament number 2, and they performed it in a great way. I'm excited to see if there's any new teams or new faces that can do this time. It looks like a fight.
Yeah, it's one of the interesting things about it is a nice little fight with the R301 here starts to take place, and that early PK is just so deadly because no one's really built up enough armor yet unless you've gotten pretty lucky. So it's going to be good for Noopunder and Dippities and, of course, Yuki there to finish off that fight and gain a couple of early kills. That's 3 kills on the board. That's already a fantastic start for them.
Yuki, we mentioned the Riders of Rohan is a caster's favorite with the Lord of the Rings reference. They start off strong with a couple early kills. Moving over to Tree side, currently on board with Myth, our first place current team. So Lara, SHRP, and Amaz currently in a good spot here. Looks like they're going to get Tree uncontested as they'll be able to now rotate. Typically, we were talking in the pregame, I like to drop Sorting Factory. Typically, a Sorting Factory rotation comes after this Tree drop. We'll see where they decide to head.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got their style, right, of where they like to drop. And I think that's part of what makes a team's personality in this. The comms are things we don't necessarily hear. I'd love to hear these comms more often. That'd be something I'd love in a broadcast where you can go to their comms, hear it, because it really tells a story of the personality of how each team plays differently. Some are more patient. Some like to drop aggressively. Lulu mentioned this perfectly in her analyst segment where she said, you start off these games, game 1 and game 2, and you're trying not to get bullied. You're trying to assert dominance. I mean, it's very primal what these guys are trying to do, Fallout. Just make sure that they set themselves, guys and girls, everybody's great in this game, but I'm just saying, set themselves themselves up to succeed by establishing their territory and making sure that nobody wants to question where they go.
Yeah, it's a great call, especially if you drop in places like Skyhook or Fragment East. A lot of teams typically drop there. I know TSM does a great job of that in the North East. A lot of teams typically drop there. I know TSM does a great job of that in the North American side of things, establishing that dominance early in Fragment. And they were able to get Fragment, I think, all 5 games uncontested as they punch their ticket to another first place finish in online tournament number 2. If you're tuning in and a fan of TSM, the North American side of things, stay tuned as North America finals will be live after the European finals right now. But right now it's all about EU as we're currently spectating 19 squads left after an early fight towards Thermal Station.
And this is the big kind of talking point of battle royales where people are looking at a slow burn. I like to liken it like, reading a great fantasy novel. We were talking about Lord of the Rings, you're reading Tolkien. You ever read that thing? You were going to be reading like poems and like he's going to be like, oh man, what's on that rock? And oh my God, you're going to read the rock for like 3 pages. And you're like, really? But it sets up the story. So paying attention to these moments, it may seem like there's a little bit of filler time, but really this is all set up as far as who's early rotating. You see Nasky and these guys trying to make that transition as quickly as possible. And even in the finals where TSM pulled off that incredible play, the Aberlele grenade heard round the world, they were already in Lava City to start the entire game. And so this is really important stuff. Even though they're not fighting, this is really telling the story for what's going to happen in the end game.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up. And more specifically, I love that you bring up the TSM example. For those that missed it, go check out game number 5 from online tournament number 2. It's on YouTube. Unbelievable play from TSM as they were able to use that Pathfinder passive in the beacon to find the endgame circle, and were able to predict correctly the endgame ring, the perfect, precise building to sit in with their prediction in the endgame ring. So you're spot on. The positioning right now really does tell the story for the late game, and we had a chance to catch that in entirety in game number 5, and TSM just really well positioned. The team right now, Nasky, Strafe, Dell, who drops Fragment East, trying to do the same thing, but they were a little late on rotation we saw earlier. Currently on board with Third Impact, another top team here in the EU side of things.
A couple of fights happening as well. You see the G7 Scout so potent, and for those just wondering about some of the reasons this weapon is still at the top, I mean, the poke damage, the headshot potential, the 2x headshot bonus is not something you get with every weapon, and especially a weapon that has such a high rate of fire. It was nerfed a little bit heading into Season 4, but it has still remained king. It even took off the scope, but these players are so skilled, and the fight's usually mid-range in terms of these fights, and especially when you see teams like TSM using a lot of similar weapons with high damage output to level up things like Evo shields, which we haven't seen a lot of yet in this lobby Fallout, but it's a big talking point for how teams are using that new item.
Yeah, we did see a lot of it in online tournament number 2, and a lot of swaps. A lot of people giving Wraith their Evo shield, as Wraith is typically in the front lines, taking a lot of damage and poking, prodding, and getting out into the void. So we'll see that come into play. I haven't seen much of it yet. Currently on board with Myth with a great rotation. And guess what? I think they're going to be in the exact same building that TSM was in, I believe, as they won their North American finals. So in a solid position is Myth to come out with a strong game number 2 here. One thing that's interesting, we see Gibraltar, and we saw the team we were watching earlier, is the Jib Abusers playing with Pathfinder. EU is known to have a heavy favoritism towards Gibraltar. So I think there's some people that are trying to shake up that meta by playing Path and abusing those Jibs.
And I like it. I mean, try to do something different. I've always said, if you're not at the top of the game, if you're not winning consistently or getting the performances that you want, try something new. I mean, it can't hurt, right? So at the end of the day, you look at a lot of these team-oriented plays with Gibraltar, which I would say EU is more characterized by great teamwork. NA is more characterized by good teamwork and great individual skill. And I would look at Gibraltar being much more of a teamwork legend. And that's why you're seeing a lot more in EU. That's just my kind of observation that I had. But Kuya as well as Leodad's in a perfect spot here with this golden armor, but I'm not sure if Ziki wants to push this one yet because this is a little bit of a dangerous run into 2 players. He's going to take high ground here and try to test him with the wingman.
Yep, brilliant movement from Ziki. He's just going to back out and reset, prioritizing rotations, but keep in mind, a lot of teams have already rotated, so it's going to be a little scary waters trying to get into Lava City and try to gain control of a building. I mentioned earlier, claiming your dominance early game. You also want to claim your position, mark your territory late game, especially with finishes like Lava City.
And that's part of the problem here. They're trying to get into a place everyone's already secured. 18 squads left, and they're all sitting in the final circle. And so this is what we talk about, that early setup where it may seem like he's just one step behind, but oh no, now this entire team is having to take a very obtuse route in order to getting directly to where they want to go, where they believe the circle might be ending. And so you're going to see a lot of these kind of interesting fights. And now they're in the safety of it. They are trying to play off a little bit of the zone where teams are going to be approaching from.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know where they need to get. It's Lava City.
That was a nice obtuse trigonometry reference there.
Oh, thanks,
brought
man.
Me back to
I
high
appreciate
school.
it.
Yeah, it was well done. I agree. But that obtuse rotation is still going to be met with some resistance, as it looks like a few teams have come over towards Dome side as well. So this poor Cabrera team is just trying to find somewhere, trying to find a home, someone to rotate for this late game. Looks like they finally will be able to post up here towards the Dome. And unfortunately, Zeke did get taken out. Zeke kind of tried to push towards Lava City by himself, was left in a pretty rough spot, and ended up getting eliminated. So now only 2 players left for Cabrera.
Yeah, and you could see that kind of play. He was testing them a little bit with some of those shots, and it just didn't end up working out for him as well. Notice the L-Star, so much damage. He doesn't realize the Gibraltar ultimate is falling, has to enter the void, but it looks like Serdell is going to fall. Nasky there, he goes down. It's just Max Strafe, and he pops a shield cell, but I don't think that cell's going to be enough. His team is dead. So he's just going to try to get out of there alive.
And now it is Rat City here. He's going to get some ticks, decides to maybe turn back and see what he can mess with in terms of long-range shots. I'm not sure if this is the right decision, trying to contest 2 or 3 people, but just going to lob another grenade in there. Max says, hey, go big or go home. You're going to pick up at least 1 banner. Tries to go for the second.
And that's the thing, you know, once they get these kills, these are eliminations. So this team doesn't want to take any risk by leaving their position in order to chase down just 1 more elimination, because it's not really worth it for them. Even if they lose another squad in this game, it drops to 17, and you're not really gaining points until you get into that top 10 position, really, for squad placement. So he has a chance, especially as Pathfinder, to get in and get out, but they're going to have to camp these boxes. He's at least gotten 1, and that's Nasky, so you got to say that's better than nothing, Fallout, but I'm not that sure if that's what he wants.
Yeah, exactly. I like the decision to go back and kind of poke. As a Pathfinder, you have easy escape with your Q, so you're able to get at least 1 teammate that should put him in a better position rather than versus having to just rat the entire game. Speaking of ratting, Yuki right now having to stay hidden like a rat and try to make it towards this late game. Tough to do when you're kind of in the middle of the open. Also going to grab a banner here, so a little bit of early banner pickups, trying to see if they can bring their teammates back to life. Meanwhile, on board with Zerifer, Matafe, and co. New squad, Ad Hoc Gaming, as Matafe almost qualified online tournament number 2. Couldn't quite make it. Now playing with Zerifer, the top players from, I believe, Eastern Europe. And a great individual player at that. Comes from the Overwatch scene.
And a great streamer as well. Just one of the most excellent streams to watch if you want to learn competitive play, because these guys stream all of their games. They're probably streaming right now, and they also have such great comms and the communication as to why things didn't work. And I love what we're seeing here. Super aggressive from Matafe. He's gotten into the void, though, as the Gibraltar ultimate comes down. The defensive bombardment's looking super offensive here, Fallout.
Yep, Matafe back on Wraith. Fits his playstyle incredibly well. As you see the aggression, likes to be the first man in. One of the more mechanically skilled players in Europe is Matafe now in a pretty rough spot here, getting flanked from both sides.
Nice knock as well. Zippeth goes up, but he's got to try to help Matafe, who's down. They pushed in, and that's a huge R99 blast there. The whole magazine goes into the Gibraltar, but he's not dead yet, and thanks to that huge gold shield, he's probably going to be able to get back up as well. But do they want to push again? They've got Zippeth covering the door, and so they may be able to hold.
And meanwhile, someone on top of them as well, so 3 teams ascending here on this one location. A multi-stacked approach as post-kill and co just staying alive, healing up. They should be able to reset. I'm not sure if that's the same for Matafe and co right below them. Leoded did pick up one top right of your screen, so good job by Leodeds, as looks like Cababril is still alive.
And so these teams have kind of settled down there. You saw the skirmish. Can they get eliminations? But they don't want to risk it all. It's more of like just trying to hedge a bet and see if you can come out on top. If not, you don't want to throw everything in. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. They'll just be safe rather than sorry. And for those who just mentioned some of these early fights, these early plays, well, we got up early. I'm on the West Coast. And you know, a lot of us in North America, we're spectating Europe. So thank you guys. It's a bit buggy in some areas, but we appreciate you watching and staying with us. We've done a lot to put this broadcast together, Fallout, like you've mentioned. Just under these circumstances, it's unusual, but I think we've done a pretty good job so far.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And so many advancements from our first online tournament broadcast, which we had a chance to do from our homes just 2 weeks ago. We've gotten some new gear, we've leveled up, but still obviously an online broadcast, entirely cloud-based broadcast, so a major shout out to EA for making that happen. We're excited to be bringing you all the action. Thank you all so much for tuning in and supporting the growth of competitive Apex. Currently watching post-kill, still back on board with Ad Hoc Gaming low side. Matafe just going to back on reset, comes back from the flank, and they're in the same exact position, somehow staying alive.
And pardon me, that was Zerifer earlier that I mentioned holding the door when we kind of took the last pause break, the commercial break of this fight. But it seems like these teams realize they're going to have to do something eventually. Zerifer holding that outside, and I believe that's a Gibraltar defensive bombardment that's going to go up and try to just buy them a little bit of time to heal up without any aggression from the outside. And so they're getting ready to make a move. I think they're just a little worried here. They've got an armor swap potentially down in case they want to try to take some poke and then go back to that if someone does get aggressive. But you got to be careful to time that out right and make sure that doesn't get stolen as well.
Yeah.
Skill playing with New Team is their team name for this one. See if they can get the late game. As you mentioned, they did use. Oh my God, that Peacekeeper from a mile.
Hello.
What in the world? It was a great shot with the precision choke, obviously making that possible. Courtesy, that shot was brought to you by the precision choke. Well done right there.
Exactly. Talk about a commercial break. I mean, that was it right there. You know, just the precision choke sponsoring all of this.
I've seen some banter. I saw a Deserto article saying the precision choke is worth it on a Peacekeeper.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of those articles get circulated based on what a lot of pros say, and I saw an earlier video about why people don't use that, but there's a reason why people do use it as well, and you just saw it right there, 112 from across the map. Things are getting rough here for New Team. Maxkey post kill, they're already down, and there's Gibraltar trying to push. Big flatline shots though fall out, so he's staying alive.
Great shots, but I don't know if it's gonna be enough. Quick armor swap's not gonna be enough. He gets taken out. And New Team, some way, somehow, they die. But AHG, Ad Hoc Gaming, and Matafe survive. They come out on top. Looks like it wasn't without casualty, as they're tagged up quite significantly here, but the revives will come through.
That was a huge play. And you can see Leo Deads rocking that Evo shield we had mentioned up. They do not have the banner for Zeki. As we mentioned, he had pushed in a similar area, and they're still trying to make their way into Lava City. And this is one of the approaches as well, Fallout, when you look at it. You see the fact that Gababrilla is in a position for number 2. They're trying to get high placements here and at least stay involved. They don't want to do any risky push until late, so they're going to play the far side of the circle and try to rotate with as much caution as possible, whereas other teams have just said, hey, we're going to go there initially. So not only one way to play this and be successful in battle royales, and that's one of the things I love about this competitive sport.
Yeah, and you'll notice kind of a theme here. A lot of the teams that are left with 1 or 2 players are playing outside circles, just trying to stay alive and stay hidden, whereas a lot of the teams that have full setups are very confident in rotating early and getting their control. Another thing I want to point out, again, if you did watch TSM win their 5th straight championship in game number 5, this is almost an identical circle. We talked about it earlier, and ring finish from what we saw in that game 5, and it looks like if the same circle ring rotates, it should be the bottom right 3 buildings that get the next ring. We'll see if that is true here, but keep in mind, Myth was very well positioned. Kuya is going to get some nice free loot and back on reset, and currently with an Evo shield and a gold shield, they're in a pretty good position, but look how many teams already got their real estate.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? Trying to push in on something like that. He's got 10 shield cells, and he's using those now instead of anything like a battery, even if he has one, because you need that battery to get a lot of value quickly, especially with the gold shield, and he's going to just use the shield cells now because he can save a little bit of time and get fully rehealed when he's not being pushed and contested. The good thing is they know no one is going to attack them, most likely from their backside. Their issue is going to be getting up top or finding a team, and most likely it's going to be taking a team who has a high ground position potentially or a low ground position in one of those buildings. So look out for that in the next circle enclosure here.
Yeah, it looks like some way, somehow, an individual, I think it was Mistral, is able to survive and get into the bottom part of that building, which I think has, I'm not sure if it's Myth above them, someone's above, directly above them, but he's going to try and rat and stay alive. Meanwhile, on board with Gamers Origin, another team that placed 3rd place in game number 1 and performed pretty well in online tournament number 2. So another one of our consistent squads, as we're used to seeing them continue to perform. Umpe, of course, and the rest of them from France.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. I can't not think of Mbappe when I see Umpe, so I got to shout out, the old soccer pass, the football pass there, and the performance they had in France in the World Cup. Man, it's a bit of a sad thing knowing that maybe, man, are we gonna have the Euros? Is that gonna happen? I don't know. I can't get into my fears about soccer or football. We got a lot of things going on here, but shout outs to the players on all sides. You see kids here looking at that portal and just setting up a Watson fence to make sure that anyone wants to take it, they're going to pay, and they're going to be ready to finish off, grab a couple E-limbs if they do.
Yeah. I love the shout out, you're playing tribute to our European audience, a lot of football fans over there, and of course, he's humble, but my man haven't played in the MLS, which obviously does not mean much. No, I'm just kidding. Compared to Europe, I'm trolling. It means a whole lot.
Yo, I'm going to leave the broadcast real quick. Hold on, sorry, guys.
It's a European player.
I just got killed. No, you're right, though. You're absolutely right, but I had a chance to do a lot. We'll talk about that in a second, because you can see Max Strafe here trying to make his move. Whoa, nice grapple, and he's gotten to the level that no one seems to be yet, but the stairs can easily be accessed to try and finish off this kill, but it seems like everybody's got a lot to do, and there it is, kids jumping up. Oh, and a big shot to the dome with the wingman, but now kids are under pressure themselves.
Yeah, great flank coming through from Lagger there, picking up the last elimination, and now kids in a good spot. New kids roster with Lagger joining Jay Savage on this team. Gamers Origin now having to rotate in a pretty decent spot. They're going to spot a team right underneath them. Arcstar is going to come out, not dealing much damage just yet. We'll see how they decide to rotate and play this. They do have a minute to play with before they are forced into that rotation. 14 squads remain in this one.
Still alive. Cababrilla still alive as well. In good positions here. Gamers Origin as well. You got our top 3 teams still fighting out for the top 3. And this is obviously going to change if any of them go down significantly the standings heading into Game 3, which Bravo and Golden Boy will have on tap for you guys after this one. But Gamers Origin here playing the patient route. They see the circle. They've got plenty of opportunity to get there, but their rotation will be a little slower or more predictable, you could say that, because they do not have that Pathfinder. They don't have that acceleration. They're just going to have to play off of course, Sirius's portal there, which will do the trick. And he's going to start setting that up right now and try to get into a position.
14 squads remain still in this one. Great portal going to come through from Sirius. That'll put him in a solid spot right in zone. Is not without a little bit of damage going to be poked. And perfect portal coming through. As it looks like now we're on board with kids and Lagger and go.
And you know what, that's why we see TSM sometimes do that switch where they will use that Evo Shield onto the Wraith, because when she does that, she's really out on a limb. And if that's 2 headshots or that's 2 people with a G7 Scout, she could die on that rotation. But hold that thought, Gambit getting in a little bit of a fight here. Artico staying inside, as you can see, Leo Gree. I'm sorry, I butchered that one, but he's basically trying to finish her off as the down and get that elimination here. But Streamy as well as Zeref, they're going to back off, knowing that they don't want to take a fight with Gambit just yet.
Yeah, a couple missed wingman shots. I'm sure you'd want that back. Currently on board with Streamy, getting tagged up as well in a pretty rough spot. 12 squads as the ring is getting smaller and smaller. Ult's going to come through. Defensive bombardment from the Gibraltar, and it's going to damage people. We know EU is usually packed in these very dense late-game rings with a lot of Gibraltar play on the European side, and it's coming through right now.
See Streamy just holding it down as well. Looks like they may be out of resources, because you can see the gold shield hasn't been healed on as well, so they may get aggressive, and that is a grenade that is going to do the trick. Some Mastiffs are out in play as well, and that's Gambit. Leorio going downstream. He finds Anarchy also, and he's just going to fall, and that's a big drop as well. You can see Laser Smith, he's finding that one, and Zeref, he's the last man standing, so they're going to fall. That's a team-wide. 9 squads remaining, 6 kills to Archgo's name, and this is a huge play potentially for Gambit here.
Yep, and this is where no Gibraltar can punish you, as Gambit not running the Gibraltar comp. It's going to cost them a life here for starters. Looks like something's going to get taken out as well. 1 member left, and look at Myth in a perfect position to go back-to-back here. Much like TSM in Game 5, they're very well positioned here in Game number 2 on the European side of things. Lara leading the way as Watson. A great game coming through for Myth. 8 squads remain.
Yeah, 2 kills there, but you can see that they're just trying to catch off of what we believe is Gamers Origin, because that's the rotation path, but it's not. It's a Pathfinder. It's got to be something else. But they are very, very aware that Gamers Origin is very close by, so there might have been a solo lurking in behind as well. You see RCO Ida, he will fall. 7 squads remaining. Gamers Origin trying to stay involved and take the low ground here, because this did end outside last time we saw it with TSM Fallout.
Exactly right. Keep in mind, Matafe and Co are still alive as well. Ad Hoc Gaming. Yep, you're right. Down does come through. 2 members of Gamers Origin remain. Gets a couple good shots put in here as this circle is getting tighter. 6 squads remain in this one. Forsaken picks up a kill for 3rd impact at the top right of your screen, so it looks like it's going to be Unpay who gets taken out. Meanwhile, Myth still perfectly positioned on high ground. Defensive bombardment's going to come through. They're going to find a nice, clean spot to stay alive and just put some shots in on low ground players. It's like shooting, and that easy shots coming through from the high side.
Absolutely, and that's just Ad Hoc Gaming actually fighting off, I believe, Gamers Origin. And so you see Myth looking down at their prey. Gamers Origin number 3 with 15 points. Myth only 20 points, 5 points ahead of them. Matafe with an armor swap, but he feels that he has enough time and will not be pushed to heal up and use some of the passive healing from the Watson ultimate there, the interception pylon. So they feel safe for now, but in about 1 minute and 15 seconds, things are going to get intense.
Talk about how clutch that Gibraltar dome was in that scenario. So again, having Jibby late game is so crucial, but of course you don't get early game info. You get Pathfinder. Meanwhile, here comes a big fight. Myth coming through. Tagged up quite significantly. None of them have shields left to their names, as they're going to retreat back to their safe position, get some heals or some shield regen back from the ultimate from the Watson, and they want to get right back in the action.
And that's why the high ground is just so important. They go in there and they finish off the kill. He gets a huge 116 PK shot, and then they're able to go back up to the high ground with the fences, allowing it so that no one else but them can go up there safely. That's just taking pretty much 2 floors to themselves now, and they can drop down on this fight.
Yeah, beautiful positioning right there from Myth. They recognized they were tagged up, went back up top, got their health back, and immediately back in the fight. Meanwhile, same thing happening for BDS here on the mid side. As it looks like they're looking to do the exact same. Watson fences are going to prove very strong here. Trying to eliminate those, and now they're going to be in a good position to push up. 96 shot. Peacekeeper misses the second, but puts in some good R99 action. Finally get taken down. All up to the Watson on their team. It's Cutie Sati, as it looks like third impact will survive here. Revive's going to come through. 4 squads remain, but they have to watch for some flanks from other teams as Myth and Co are right above them.
Myth still in a beautiful spot here to try to take this. They've got the high ground. 2 seconds left fallout before this game ends. Can Myth back-to-back in the Lava City ending that you can see there. The Gibraltar Dome Shield about to go down. They throw the Thermite as well to make sure anybody who's landing has a lot of things to get through. It's like an obstacle course there, and a Peacekeeper's waiting for you at the end. Big shot on the shield. They're burning as well. AHG, Matafe goes down, and so does Zerifer.
Great shots coming in. 4 squads remain in this one. AHG in a good spot. 3 squads left. Huge Peacekeeper shots coming through here on board with Myth. Can he clutch to get the back-to-back? No, he gets downed, and that should be it. Can you believe the finish? Ad Hoc Gaming is going to come out on top. Wow.
Oh my goodness. Don't step outside that circle, buddy. Don't step outside that circle. He's not going to let that one happen. Zipith is going to take the W for Ad Hoc Gaming, and you just know Matafe is going hype. You know the whole squad is popping off. Zerifer is yelling and screaming, and what a performance by them to manage that low ground fallout, especially when Myth had every reason to succeed in that scenario. Didn't really have to take any 3v1s in terms of fights. What an incredible performance by AHG, and that's why they're a team for me to watch. I love their comms. I love the way they play the game and think about the game, and you could see managing that situation was extremely difficult, but they did it perfectly.
Not only just the late game fight had to be earned, but the way that they did it from mid game, they were in a horrible spot earlier on as they were fighting 2 teams. I think they were fighting Nasty Strafe Dell and Co on the other side of the map, and new team able to somehow survive that fight. No casualties, no one dead, get some revives, rotate all the way into Lava City where teams were already positioned. We didn't get to see their journey on that rotation, but the fact that they made it from the outskirts of Lava City and were able to come out on top of the win there, I think it says a lot about this team, their performance, and the leadership coming through from AHG. Wow.
Well, we're a lot of gamers. They know some anime. So when you see Goku in the fight with the Jiren and things like that, you don't see him with his just his suit perfectly done. You don't see him just looking clean and fresh like he just showered. He's beaten up, he's bloodied, he's bruised, and sometimes that leads you to your best performance at the end because you're alert, you're aware, you're warmed up. And I think AHG actually benefited from taking some of those earlier fights and really testing themselves. Whereas Myth, they really only had that final skirmish where they dropped down in such an easy position to take advantage of a team that was already in an awkward spot when they had high ground. I just felt like it was really AHG who put themselves in a position to be able to win this one.
Yeah, that's a great call out. The difference of playing for placement, playing for kills early on. Of course, in the end, it was AHG that came out on top. But to break down the action, we do have an analyst desk, and we have our analysts, Jamerson and Lulu. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Fallout. And yeah, what an explosive end to that game there. Very similar to, of course, Online Tournament 2, North America, game number 5, right, where Alberlele had that clutch nade, the crazy nade. I watched that clip like 5 times, by the way, but it was a very similar story. It dropped down to that same building, but this time around, instead of pulling down to the south towards those fences, it pulled out just east of the building there. And it was honestly a very there's a team on the high ground, there's a team on the low ground, and everyone's expecting the team on the high ground to win. But I mean, the team on the high ground still has to jump down, and when you jump down, you leave yourself in a trajectory that you just kind of get lit up for.
Yeah, I mean, Myth had that high ground, and they had a good position, the whole entire game, and didn't take a lot of fights. And I really thought they would pull that through, but the low ground won. And it's so exciting, and AHG, really, they did a good job.
Yeah, I mean, AHG, right, they've definitely had a lot of growing pains. Matafe, formerly of North, wasn't able to compete because of a lot of the country restrictions that happened, and so North ended up dropping him. I really want to see that squad as a total play together, but we never really got that. And so Matafe went on his own way, created this team with Zerifer and Zipith, and there was growing pains there, right? You get to see how aggressive that Matafe likes to play.
Yeah.
And so he was originally on the Watson, but now he's made the swap to the Wraith, and it just suits him so well.
Yeah, and they're a fun team to watch, and they're definitely a team that takes early fights, and they know their positionings and everything, but it's fun to watch them because they don't they don't just hold one building the entire game, and that's what we saw here in this game. They took some early fights.
Yeah, that's the thing about them, right? I believe they dropped Skyhook, and they're. I was watching their VODs for the quarterfinals, and they are really late on the rotation. And hold on one second. Like again, trying to come from Skyhook, it is absolutely nuts. But let's go ahead and take a look at the final moments of this game, which was absolutely nuts. It was final 3 teams, final 4 teams as the circle's closing to the east side of the building, and basically with the golden knockdown shields here, you know, it just comes down to who's going to get second, who's going to get thirsted first, right? And so he's
So
gonna
many
pick the
people.
litter.
Oh, that Watson
And so
fits
it just
too.
came down to yeah, no nades there, so like you can't have like a pog like just light up the kill feed like, oh, I got 5 kills, I got 6 kills, right? Moment like Arbalele had, but
nuts.
still. Yeah, it was just excellent late game play, and you know that's kind of how like a lot of this action does devolve there. But again, AHG, I gotta really commend them. They have really grown out and through their growing pains. Again, making these adjustments. Zerifer still doesn't look as comfortable on the Watson, but I think it's a better trade-off having
Yeah.
Matafe being really comfortable on the Wraith and being able to play as aggressively as he wants to, because this is a team that is very reactionary in their way. I can show you guys on the telestrator real quickly exactly like how they have to play because of their early kind of looting path. Now, we were talking about it, right? I believe our casters were talking about it, how you need to be able to loot really quickly. And this is a team that normally drops on the eastern side of Skyhook here. But of course, we saw that the final circle was going to end up all the way down here, and that is absolutely nuts because that is one of the farthest rotations. That is actually like the farthest rotation you have to try and make, going from the northwest side of the map all the way down to the northeast side. But they're a team that's used to playing edge. They basically have practiced and scrimmed on playing edge all the time, which is why that we saw on that last rotation that, you know, they ended up on these buildings here, which usually has a beacon to play with, but they're not a path team, right? So they don't really worry about that, but try playing edge, and that's what they do, right? A lot of teams, they understand and play towards kind of their circumstances where they know they're late on rotation, they don't have priority on it, they're going to be the last team here, we'll make the best of it. And the best of it was to hold that location, and it ended up working out for them. As I zoom in real quickly, there we go. Holding this building here, they ended up getting into that fight, right? I believe it was Nasky, Dell, and Strafe that were playing in the buildings here. And so picking up extra kill points along the way, we talked about that early game, the mid game, getting those extra KP, it's going to be huge going into these next few rounds here. Being able to have this controlled fight because so many other teams were actually just holding out here. I mean, this is, you know, Lava City. How many teams would you say would be able to hold in Lava City in the early game, Lulu?
Oh, I mean, we see, you know, multiple teams sharing one building. You know, they're sharing, they're on top of each other. They're one on each floor. You can actually fit a lot of people in Lava City, and you know, with the walls on outside of some of those buildings, you know, teams will hug the walls. So you know, they're a lot.
Yeah, and so like if you have like maybe 14 teams in Lava
Yeah.
City proper, and then in the north side you have an isolated 1v1 or even, you know, 3 teams there to take that fight. It's a much more controlled area, right? You don't have to worry about the third party to eventually get the team fight win there, pick up those extra KP, and then worry about the rotation afterwards. Especially because that rotation coming from the north to the south, while it is through open field, you know the angles that you have to look out for. I mean, maybe a team's holding the northeast side, maybe a team's holding the dome, but with proper scouting and especially with how smart all those players are, especially Matafe, you know, the wealth of information that he has, he knows how to make those rotations safe for his team, and so they were able to get in for the late game. It was absolutely nuts. Now we do have also some highlights coming out from that game number 2, because there was so much that we could talk about from game number 2 there. Even though, you know, at the beginning we were like, oh, this is a very similar circle, but it was a different case, right? Because it was going to go ahead and hold down now. Here we go. This is what we were talking about. Never mind. It was Kashera post-kill and ASCII that were on the other side of this onslaught coming out from AHG. They were trying to hold these buildings here. They trade, but it's going to be ultimately, of course, Matafe here to clutch out this win. The armor swap isn't enough, but this is another team that I want to talk about. Krababrala, once again, they lost Ziki early on, right? They tried to go for some crazy play where they pushed into Lava City from the south there, but they ended up losing it. But they played towards their circumstances where they ended up just going all the way back, over to Lava City, or excuse me, to Dome, and just kind of waited out the rest of the server. Here we go. We do have the end here, and we see it from Zippet's point of view, where
Trying to find
okay. Who's got the gold knockdown shield? Who am I going to take out first?
Yeah, and I love those exciting end circles. That was a great game, and maybe we'll see a different circle this time, hopefully, in this next one.
Yeah, the thing is, like, a lot of the times, for some reason, for these tournaments, we have very similar circles for, like, the first 3 or 4 games, and then the last 2 circles are, like, drastically different. So now we've had 2 circles down here to the southeast. We'll see if we have more circles coming up in game number 3, or will we have a similar case this time around? We're going back to Golden Boy and, Golden Boy and Bravo. Gentlemen, take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Jamerson and Lulu. And yes, we're back. So first, before we jump into things, I just want to say, Andy, I totally beefed the end there of game 1 because, I feel like you can't give the win to somebody else. You know what I'm saying, Papa? You gotta give it to the one who earns it. That being said, congrats to Myth on game 1, but crazy stuff there from Ad Hoc Gaming at the end there. It was literally like whoever was hoping that they wouldn't get picked off first. Who can get second or third in that whole tussle there? That was bananas.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was. I thought I was going crazy too. What we had just a different screen up through one of the obs, so the wildly confused on the end of game 1. Do apologize there, previously excuse that. But in the end, it was Myth who had an amazing late bubble, like we talked about. And I was like, I'm pretty sure they just won the game. It turns out they did. Not only that, but they also had a pretty great performance in game number 2 as well. That's going to put them pretty good in the standings. If you're just joining us here, Myth right now leading this European lobby with 38 points total. Ad Hoc's performance in game number 2 is going to put them at second, 26. Kababala, who's been pretty darn consistent, they're in third with 22. So those 3 teams right now with a little bit of a lead. The middle of the pack is pretty darn close as well. Gamers Origin, Third Impact Black, and Gambit go 19, 18, 17 for those next 3 spots. So these next few games are going to be pretty interesting. But as we take a look at the first circle poll, we're pretty darn central here. So finally, I agree with Jamerson and Lulu. We tend to see pretty darn similar circles in these tournaments, even when they're in completely different updates and map versions. So we are finally moving away from Lava City for game number 3. We will instead be heading a lot more central, and that means a lot of teams are going to be getting into the center of the map as quickly as they can throughout the first opening moments. They're going to be on pretty fast loot paths.
Just a crazy first 2 games there. We were watching it, and myself along with Jamerson, Lulu, and we were just like, is this going back to the same spot again? Yep. All right, there it is. But hey, at least you're going to be prepared for that, right? Now this time around, as you had mentioned, you're going to get a little bit more centralized. You'll be heading over to Fragment, as you see on the map as it pops up there. You got Fragment West, Fragment East. Some love being given to that region. Epicenter as well is going to get tagged in there too. So having that intel early on with your Pathfinder is going to be very useful for you to have. And we'll see now. We'll see how this one turns out, whether or not Myth can do the same thing that they did again in game 2, which was really that superb positioning that they were able to obtain. It was holding down that top of the building. That allowed them to be able to go all the way until right at that end situation where they scrambled in that final circle against Ad Hoc Gaming and Third Impact. But yeah, man, just a crazy series of events there. But Myth looking pretty good thus far at 38 points, leading this lobby going into game 3.
Yeah, they're going to be really happy with the way they've played in their first 2 games, without a doubt. But actually, there's going to be some early engagements towards Harvester that they probably didn't expect here. They're going to have to play this a little bit careful. But one thing that we just saw about that beacon poll is it's not too crazy of a beacon. Essentially, it's just more central. Any teams that might have been thinking that this could have been something around outskirts stations to the west of Epicenter or Epicenter proper, that's going to be ruled out. Any team that does have a beacon here, this essentially is going even more central towards Fragment West and Fragment East.
Yeah, also going to be interested to see how the bridge actually plays into it. How that gap right in the middle is going to factor into this whole situation, right? Because if this circle is going to live in that area, that's certainly that's terrain that you simply just cannot take control of, right? So got to be very mindful of that. Also, another team that we covered a lot in game 1, but didn't really talk about much in game 2 is Na'Vi. Currently only at 2 points as we're here in game 3.
Yeah, not where you expect Navi to be with just the performances that they've had throughout competitive Apex overall. Keep in mind they were missing from online tournament too, but they're still a European powerhouse. But like you said, 2 points that puts them in 19th place. Keep in mind Myth once again is on 38 points. So Navi now has to make these next 3 games count, and not just count, but they need to make sure one of them is a big game.
Yeah, they need a big winner in order for them to get the result that they want there. You got Gambit at 17 points presently. They will be sitting at 6th place here. As Gambit is just looking to hunker down. They know exactly where they're going to be going. So they'll be okay for that there. And obviously no squads have been eliminated thus far. But yeah, man, it's the European region is, it always just brings a lot of excitement to the table, in my opinion. It doesn't matter what game I cast. It always feels like the European region always just brings that hype. You always get some crazy moments with them. And so far, so good here for Gambit as well, as they're going to just chill out underneath this bridge. Some shots actually coming from the top of that mountain there. And interesting play nonetheless to just warp right back over to this safe haven here.
Absolutely, and teams, of course, unsurprisingly banking on Fragment East buildings much more than Fragment West, as now going to be a little bit more trouble here. They're going to have to be careful, but Fragment East buildings went quick. You heard Jamerson and Lulu talking about, and you'll hear it on scrims as well, just how many teams you can fit. Essentially any 3-story building, especially in Fragment East on a circle like this, will be taken by 3 teams. If not now, then certainly within these next few moments. It's so difficult to just navigate between buildings, even starting from this early game to late game on these kind of pulls. It's so difficult to move within buildings, so that real estate's going to go so quick. You're going to see teams just fencing up. If they can get a 3rd story and get the 3rd story on roof, they're going to take that. But if they have to settle for a 1st story, they're going to do that and be ready to move as needed. So here we go now, taking finally a look into Fragment West.
Yeah, BDS can identify players inside of the building there. I'm sure that's space that they would like to be able to take up for themselves, but for the time being, they're just going to have to deal with the outskirts here, right outside in the market area. Just waiting this one out. You're going to have a few players surrounding them as well. Obviously, by a few, I mean 20 other squads that are just going to be looking right in this direction, because there's not a lot of space to play with here. Time is going to continue to tick down, and that zone is going to start to close, and that's when that movement's going to begin. And I'm actually kind of surprised here. I mean, BDS not in an ideal position, right? If anyone, they're going to have to keep eyes on this with the Havoc and make sure no one's going to try and push this, because, or not even push, but just go for some shots, right? Just be a nuisance to them. You just want to try and avoid that altogether.
Yeah, of course. And right now, I think they're in an okay position just because they have established a little bit of presence. Of course, their Watson has gotten some fences up. So teams are going to be unlikely to push this just because in the fragment complexes, if you will, this is certainly an example of, it goes back to my earlier point. When you are trying to move in between these buildings at any stage of the game, outside of the earliest timing, just outside of the drop, it is such a difficult route compared to other parts of the map. It's one of the areas where once you're set up, that needs to be your spot. And even it's oftentimes too risky to even get a piece of a building that might be even more high value, because that move, you're going to have so many teams just throwing all sorts of shots at you. So
yeah,
for that reason, they're actually pretty safe, just because there's going to be very unlikely that a team tries to push them in such an open building. So like many teams in Fragment right now, they're going to be sitting pretty. They're going to get as much information about neighboring teams as they can. They're going to be watching their angles and be ready to make a move when that time does come.
Yeah, I'm actually more interested to see some of the fights are going to be happening on the outskirts, right? I think we still have a team that's going to be lingering outside of sorting. Players still trying to, attempt to push in, right? Those guys are going to be hanging out by the epicenter as well. There's just going to be a lot of activity on the outskirts. A lot of those players, as you had mentioned, Bravo, on Fragment, they're not going to move. They have no reason to move right now unless something dramatic occurs, and the chances of that is slim to none, to say the least. And actually looking at the map here, I think there is going to be a team that will be making their way over toward Geyser or around that Geyser area. We'll have to keep an eye on them. A lot of squads are going to be holding out on the cliff sides too. You actually have two teams that are going to be right next to each other as well. And this is going to be the Geyser squad. That will be Sadyama and company, aka Dead Inside. Hopefully they feel a little bit happier, right? I mean, You know, surely it's not going all too bad for them. They got 9 points right now. You don't got to be dead inside Bravo, right?
You don't got to be, but they're going to be dead inside and outside if they don't get through the geyser pass. Either geyser bounce out or
I set you up for that.
I appreciate it because they are one of our. Actually, you can easily say they are the latest rotating team. They are making their way finally, maybe through vault or through the geyser choke, and they're going to have quite a route in because as you've been seeing on the op screens, essentially everything around this area, the capital city eastern outskirts, all of Fragment East, all of Fragment West, obviously every single piece of the map right now is taken, and it has been for quite some time right now, and that is not going to be an easy route for them.
Oh, but it seems like ASCII and company are getting pushed outside of their building. They were able to take out Yuki, looking for another one in front of them here. Post kills, got him low. Pathfinder is going to go down. One player left alive. He's going to be outside. ASCII's going right after him. That was exactly where they are. That is going to be Kashera getting to clean up there on Faulty. A little bit of a rough situation there for Yuki and company. The Riders of Rohan, I believe that was their Wraith that was still going to be alive there, Dipitize, who may have been able to get away from that one and live to fight another day, but that day is going to end relatively soon at the rate that things are going here. You're also hearing a lot of shots outside. The Elites are going to be taking some shots at players over by Epicenter. And for now, though, things are just going to slow down for the players in Fragment. And for everyone that's going to be outside, they're just going to be fighting for some space.
Absolutely. This is, especially with, like we said, as tight as things are going to be right now with the Fragment setups, any team that is actually, unfortunately, playing Edge, they know that they've waited too long, whether it was due to a loot path or their drop or whatever. Now is not the time to fly in. That time will come, but ideally, if you are playing Edge, of course, essentially they're going to be listening for and looking for anything that gives them a slight third-party opportunity, because right now trying to take a flat 3v3, a 50-50 towards any of these buildings is going to be so difficult, so challenging, and not worth the risk.
Yeah, it's why they call them 50-50s no matter what game you compete in, right? You're always going to have that. And it's whether or not you have evaluated that the juice is worth the squeeze, you know? And with Game 3, players looking to just fight for placement, get the lion's share of the points and as many kills as they can. You do not want to take that risk. And that could be the end of your run in the finals here. But looking at the map, though, and what we have, a few more squads are going to be in the outskirts. Look for those 3 squads that are going to be hanging out at the Epicenter, right? Like toward Epicenter and Fragment West. So they're going to get nice and comfy in a little bit there, Bravo.
Yeah, they're going to meet each other whether they like it or not, and they are not going to be practicing any level of social distancing as they'll be getting on top of each other. They do need to, though, because if there's actually, with only, like you said, 3 teams Northwest right now, they could easily each take their own routes in and practice pretty darn safe social distancing, but chances are that they're going to run into one another. You also have, as you had been pointing out, GB, you also have 3 teams that are towards the south side. They're along the geyser side cliffs, and they're also going to be making their way up in here. But as we're seeing here, this low ground is pretty popular as well. Essentially, anywhere that you can hold, establish presence, have a whole lot of cover, a really safe ult. Those are going to be a lot of places that also have gone quick now. Here's one of those Epicenter teams that's finally going to be making their way through its click.
And by the way, in case you are wondering who is the first team to get eliminated, unfortunately, it is the Riders of Rohan. They will have to ride another day because Dipitize was finally cleaned up there. We saw that exchange happen over at Fragment, I believe, what is that, Fragment East that took place, and did not work out for the Riders at all. Click, though, they maybe took a little cheeky zip line to get up into that high ground, but were punished right away as soon as they did so, having to back away. Baker needing to recharge with a Phoenix kit will do just that. Paradox, though, is going to get knocked out from the high ground. That is actually going to be Streamy that catches him from on high. Because of that, Taxi's going to have to get back inside here. Less than 30 seconds, I should say, until that zone begins to close, and everyone's going to have to start to move. And now, Click, they're going to be dealing with a man down as they start this rotation.
Yeah, I'm curious what happened also. This is one of your 3 teams that we talked about that was towards the north. You've also got some action towards the south here, towards the capital city eastern outskirts. As expected, every single one of these buildings will be held. And essentially,
Gambit have been in here this whole time. They haven't moved.
Yeah.
They haven't needed to move.
Absolutely. And they are going to be the team that has to move relatively early compared to the rest of the eastern outskirts buildings. They're going to need to be ready to start to do some type of damage or choose their route in. They're going to have a few different options. It's probably going to come in the form of a TP to get just a little bit more central, so we'll keep an eye on them as well.
Indeed we will. There goes the map as more players begin to populate here. We thank you all so much for joining us, as what is going on over here is truly a Herculean effort by everyone involved for this broadcast. It is actually very impressive. I had the opportunity to do Twitch Rivals and a few other broadcasts the other day, and everyone's been figuring out how to do the whole online broadcast thing. It ain't easy. So make sure you give your love to the folks at EA for making this thing happen, because this is wild, honestly. In all of my years, I've never actually seen something like this before.
It really is. It's pretty incredible to essentially have a remote studio. You know, a graphic coordinator. Oh, I'm going to interrupt myself, though, and we'll see exactly how this plays out for Cabrabra.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be quite interesting now. The Elites are going to have to back away. Backs against the wall here. Looking to bring back their squad members there, but they're going to lose out on their Gibraltar. As we go over to Click, who are they're just riding the edge, baby. They have no reason to move right now. Fight's going to be going on, though. Streamy from Elites. He's going to be dangerously low. Needs to get on out of there, but it ain't going to happen. As AHD moves in there. So Ad Hoc Gaming is going to go in and claim some kills. You also got Click, who gets their revenge on Streamy for taking out one of their teammates early on. That was a Paradox who timed out there because they were not able to get him, but the gold revive knockdown shield is going to bring him right back into the action. So Streamy not down. Oh, never mind. I spoke too soon. I'm so sorry. Caster's curse there, folks, but you hate to see it happen.
Ad Hoc Gaming is going to pick up another one there, as you can see. Also, Cabrabra was picking up a little bit of a knocks on the side of FA Kids as well, if I'm not mistaken, in the feed. Actually, I do not believe it was FA Kids, excuse me, but Cabrabra picking up some kills. I think it was on Third Impact Black. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. And like we said, this is going to be one of the first Fragment East end circles that we've actually seen in a LGS play. We've certainly seen a lot of it online, a lot in scrims, and the wing shots looking good.
Spicy.
But this
I like
is going to be love me a good. I mean, if you just watch Aberlele's POV. Hodsick has an amazing video, by the way. Hodsick, by the way, one of the most, I would actually say he's creating the best content for Apex, and I think he's the most valuable community member in Apex right now. Absolutely go check out Hodsick's breakdown of TSM gameplay on YouTube. But you can also check out amazing wingman shots, because Hodsick has the exclusive on the TSM gameplay from Online Tournament 2. And an example of incredible gameplay and also incredible commentary and breakdown. So absolutely check that out. Special shout out to Hodsick. The wingman shots reminded me of what we were watching in that video. Now, here we are, still 18 squads left. And as I was saying before, the break, some action here in Fragment East.
Yeah, Baker is going to get cracked there. An unfortunate situation for Taxi as well, as they go down. And that seems like that is going to be end for the Click. Goodbye. We'll see you again in the next game. And I do want to make a note here, as players are going to begin the rotation, that what you're seeing right now, if you're witnessing a little bit of lag and you're watching this, no, this is not impacting the players. I want to be abundantly clear with that. Our observers, as well as us, we are located here in North America. It's obviously the trials and tribulations of conducting an online broadcast, but the players are not being impacted by lag whatsoever. We're seeing a little bit of it, but it is not affecting the players. Want to get that point across.
And look where this has pulled. It has pulled essentially completely out of Fragment East. Only one building still in, and everything's pulled actually towards the eastern outskirts, which is interesting because there's a corner of a building there. So this is really going to pull our two last settlements towards each other. Fragment East and the Cap City East outskirts are going to be pulled right into the center area. So any team that's playing the outer edge of those buildings right now is going to hope that they're able to get a third-party opportunity of teams kind of flying in now. 47 seconds before things get pretty wild.
I wonder who are the lucky son of a guns that have that edge of that building there, because that is a wonderful spot to be in. Granted, you do not want to be there for too long, but just something to keep in mind, right? You don't have to worry too much about the rotation.
Yeah, right now it's a good spot. Right now it is a good spot to be for sure. That is, and we'll have to see exactly. I believe we're going to have one team that's going to be towards the bottom of them. We might even have two stacked. We'll see if we can see that on our ops. But right now, even areas like underneath these railroad tracks are going to be so valuable, just because they're going to let you establish a little bit of presence. Now, teams know that they're going to have to force through this, and you know absolutely that FA Kids as well is going to be a team that's going to be ready for that. Now, 11 squads left.
On screen right now, the Powerpuff Bruvs. Love the name. Big fan. big fan. Over here in the low ground underneath the bridge. Some under bridge dwellers here. You got to just hold any kind of territory that you possibly can. Barrage is coming in over on the outskirts there, as you can see. Taking a look now at Na'Vi, who we mentioned before, needed to have a big game here. Perhaps this could very well be it. They're going to be outside utilizing the bubble to give him some kind of protection now. Pressure's starting to come in, though. Faizu's going to see if he can stay alive in this one. Going to go to the hip there with the G7. Manages to down one, but Claw's last man standing for this squad. Can Na'Vi do it? And it seems like Na'Vi will go down a bit, spoken a little too soon there. But Na'Vi will end this one. I think that was going to be in around 9th or 10th place, and they should be able to secure themselves 2 or 3 points, depending. Powerpuff Grubs, though, will be outside underneath this bridge for the time being, and they got to begin to contemplate this rotation. And look at third impact on the high ground here.
Yeah, that was BDS, by the way, picking up those kills. But now, yeah, third impact is in a great spot as well. Keep in mind, they are on 2 whites, once again indicating that they undoubtedly rotated into Fragment East very, very early. I don't know exactly where they've been dropping for the past few weeks. Needs to be careful. Forsaken getting maybe a bit overzealous there as he's on the receiving end of some shots. And right now, it's going to be up to really Balanji and Fjeldern to just try to hold this high ground and play this very carefully.
And that's the challenge when you have white armor, right? You have to be so careful, and I like that.
Port him up. He's just going to give him a little portal up so he can get the revive. Very smart.
Clever play.
Really
clever play.
Was trying to get the proximity revive. It wasn't coming in, so just going to give him a little opportunity to get 2 things, right? Now he's revivable, but also he's also out of any sightline that might have been possible there. But speaking of, talking about here, the Powerpuff Grubs, love how they played the underbridge here because it gave them edge to their back. Their back is completely safe. Their top is completely safe. They played right now this perfectly, knowing that as long as no team pushed underneath them on that last close, they were going to have a really good spot here in this final top 5.
For the teams that are left here, I see 4 of them right now. It's the Powerpuff Grubs. You also got BDS as well as Third Impact and Gambit are going to be the ones still in this fight here. We have one more team, though, obviously, with 5 squads remaining. Balloon's going to put down some shots on the squad that's going to be located down low. Pressure, of course, is going to be on for this team that has the high ground. And Forsaken is going to go down. We're coming down to the wire here, folks.
Yeah, it's trouble for Third Impact. Definitely they need to be careful once again. Not the best in terms of armor. Powerpuff Grubs still laying down some decent shots on 2 purple armors as well.
3 squads are going to be remaining in this exchange. Players are going to go down low. Gambit, they have 3 players still standing, but one is going to go down. This is not looking good for them whatsoever. Third Impact still on the high ground. Balloon's going to be the guy to keep your eye on. As far as healthy players go, that's going to be the Powerpuff Grubs. All members of their squad have shields, have health remaining. They're also going to have the high ground forcing down, and that is going to do it. The Powerpuff Grubs are going to take it. They were playing low the whole time, and then they managed to just wrestle the high ground away. Very impressive stuff there, and just a crazy end circle for them, Bravo, because of the way that all panned out. Third Impact had that high ground up above, and as soon as they ended up losing one of their players, at that point, things just started to snowball out of their control, and that was a GG, but very well done by Powerpuff Grubs.
Absolutely. In the end, Powerpuff Grubs, I think they knew that they were going to get that edge just to go right up against the edge of that bridge above them on the railroad tracks, which gave them the perfect opportunity to just poke as they wanted. They essentially isolated that single angle just straight ahead, and they knew exactly what they had to worry about. And in being able to do that, they were able to just poke as they wanted. And also Third Impact, right? I can't remember if it was Fjeldern or Forsaken, but essentially
Forsaken went down early.
Yeah, Forsaken going down in that scenario, you're already on double white, and you have high ground that is kind of unreliable, right? They really had to be selective about what angles they use that high ground on. And as a result, if you're on double whites and one of your players go down, now your Wraith is using the TP just to get them back to safety. That TP can't be used for a late game portal. But I really like what I saw from the Powerpuff Grubs. They knew that they were going to have just the perfect amount of edge. It was going to give them the right route in. And to be honest, they let the teams fight like we saw. They let Third Impact get downed as well. And then they timed that push in perfectly. By the end of it, they were on triple purple armor pushing in that final 3 squads. So great stuff from them.
Yeah, how many times can we all say that we've been playing Apex and we're just like, let them fight. Let them fight. And we'll clean up later.
Every game.
Every game. I live my life like a rat, baby. I'm inside my rat cave here, just living that rat life.
I'm not going to comment on that.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us in game number 3. Let's send it over to our analysts to break it down just like they did for their first 2 games. Jamerson, over to you.
third-party Terry's over
Ooh.
there. They're just going to wait it out and then clean up the pieces afterwards. But there we go. We have a new winner. That's 3 games in a row where we've had a different winner so far. And this time it was the Powerpuff Bruvs.
Love the name. And there was a different circle. You know, we wanted to see something different, and we got it right out of East Fragment. So it's nice seeing that
Just a little
move
bit.
a little bit. Yeah.
The circle's kind of creeping up and down the east side of the map there. But yeah, this time around it ends. But I mean, this is the final moment we got.
Yeah, and we saw Third Impact losing one of their team members from peeking above the rock and just getting absolutely beamed. So he just completely wasn't even in this infight, and I think that kind of cost them that.
Yeah, we even see the impact of like Watson traps, just making sure like in the end game, putting them down, just put them down willy-nilly anywhere. You never know when
All over
someone's
the
gonna
place.
walk through. Like, yeah, exactly. In the chaos, someone's gonna walk through. It's gonna do damage. It's gonna slow them down. It's super important as a Watson to make sure that you always have that presence of mind. Put down my fences.
Fence everywhere, everything. Yeah, it really is a great utility to use at that end circle.
But it's not always just about the late game, right? There's actually been a little bit of a story and a rivalry brewing in the early game here. You had mentioned it, right? We don't have the same kind of scrims to be able to establish where your drop zone's going to be. We've been having a lot of early game fights going on, 3 games in a row now, Lulu.
Yeah, and what we talked about earlier is that some of these teams are going to have to 50-50. And we saw Riders of Rohan, they made it out first 2 games, but this game, they got taken out first, having to fight in 50-50 thermal. And that's what I was talking about earlier, like, you know, both these teams, they're not getting bullied out, they're not changing their dropping point, so they're having to fight first every single time.
Yeah, this time around over happening at Fragment there. And so again, it's when you don't have like your established drop point and you kind of have to play and wing it there. You taking these early fights, it hasn't been working out for them. Really unfortunate now, because even though like the first 2 games, I think they were faring pretty well. Like they were fighting over at Thermal, they were getting some trades at the very least, or winning their 50-50s and then running away. But again, these early games, it's so important. I mean, again, the placement breakdown, right? You want to hit at least 15th to try and get 1 point on the board.
Yeah, and then, you know, if you lose a player or 2 players in that early fight and their Wraith tried to get away but ultimately wound up running into another team and getting the whole squad is out. Yep.
Yeah, we all know what happens at Fragment. You're going to get sniped from a building somewhere by somebody.
Yep.
It's like so easy to call, but right now, you know, with 3 different teams taking the win so far, there's still teams though that are clamoring to try and get up to within the top 5 placements right now. We'll have the updates for the standings shortly, but I mean, we're seeing a lot of what we expected, right? A lot of the top teams consistently making it to the top, or at least within the top 10 right now. And a lot of these rings have been working out for them, right? I think because the ring keeps pulling over to the eastern side, we're seeing a lot of the same teams that are able to establish themselves center zone pretty early on.
Yeah, and but you know, like we said, that you know, every winner has been a different team, so I think it's still anybody's game, you know. I don't really think that anyone has too high of a lead, and we could see a completely different circle this time on a different side of the map, and then see new top 5 teams. So
I believe this time during online tournament 2, during EU, Alliance was already like just wrecking the field.
Yeah.
They were getting so many kills, so many wins that they had about a 20-point lead that they rode into all the way through game number 5 and still ended up winning the ultimate tournament with a 20-point lead. Right now, I don't know if we have that same kind of split. Where I think Myth might still be on top, has a 20-point lead over the second place team. So because so many different teams are kind of winning and taking first place spot, the spread isn't as drastic. And like you had said, Lulu, anyone could actually break it into the top 5 or even take first place.
Yeah, and you know, even if they don't, you know, get first, but they're able to rack up a bunch of kills like we saw earlier, you know, it could help them go up the leaderboard too. You don't necessarily need to get that first if you can also get those KPs.
Yeah, I mean, it does help though, right?
It does, yes.
There's a correlation. Like, the higher you place, the more kills you should be getting. But at this point, a lot of teams are, or some teams are having the struggle, or it's struggling to try and make it into 15th at this point. And they do absolutely need those right now, as we're coming down to our final 2 games. Now, these are the last 2 games to try and make it within the top 10. Remember, everybody at home, only the top 10 will be walking away with a share of 26K for EU. And so this is the mad scramble. This is where a lot of teams want to try and make it out of the middle of the pack. You know, you gotta, this last 2 games here, Lulu.
Yeah, and during the last 2 games, or even we'll see it more in the last game, but we'll see teams either getting more aggressive or they start leaderboard gatekeeping almost. They'll see a team, oh, they're fighting, that's a team we need to knock out early on so they don't get more points. We'll start seeing a little bit of a switch, I think.
All right, now we do have the results from game number 3. It's not the full standings yet, but let's go ahead and take a look at exactly how the points broke down there during game number 3. And take a look, Powerpuff Bruvs, that's what we're talking about. The higher you place, the more likely you are to get KP, and so they get the 12 points from first and 14 points from kills.
Ooh. I would not be surprised if that puts them pretty well up on the leaderboard, and we don't see Myth here.
Yeah, so that is a drastic difference, right?
Ooh.
I believe they made it within the top 4 in game number 2, so this time they're not there, but with a substantial lead. And there we go, we do actually have the overall points. Hey!
Only a 5-point
So with the
lead?
huge performance, yeah, only a 5-point lead, and with that huge performance from Powerpuff Bruvs, look at that. Instantly, they are shot up to 3rd place.
And if they have another game like that, then they'll easily be taken first.
But another team that we haven't been able to talk about as much, they just haven't been as explosive, but they have been definitely consistent, to say the least, is Gambit Esports. They're in 2nd place right now. After 3 games, they've got 35 points.
And that's a team that we see they have really good positioning. We see them, they had high ground and the best building the 2nd game. They definitely play for positioning, and it seems like it's working out for them. But they also are able to pick off kills here and there as well.
And so we were talking about a lot of the, you caught me fixing my hair there, but a lot of the early game fights. And so the Riders of Rohan right now on the cusp of breaking 15th there, but they still have a lot of places they need to try and go up. But I mean, they take a very, very edge of the map drop, right, in Thermal Station, which a lot of the time doesn't have the kind of priority. Do you think they should try and do something different here? As we're coming down to the last 2 games, they need placement points. They need to try and get some extra kill points later on in the games.
I mean, they're going to have to win their 50-50, or they're going to have to maybe land a little bit more on the outside of Thermal, or go to a no-name area. But it comes down to if they want to stay there, they're going to have to win their 50-50 and get out. So, and hopefully we'll see them, if they choose to land there, hopefully we see them win.
Yeah, and so we're going to be talking about teams on the bubble right now. One of our teams to look out for was RCO EU, but they're currently tied for 9th place up against Outsiders, who are both sitting at 15 points, and just below them is Dead Inside, sitting at 11 points right now. So they're sitting on the 11th place spot. So again, it's still that area where middle of the field, it's so tightly contested that even anyone from the bottom 10 with one good game can propel themselves within the top 10.
Yeah, I definitely think we'll see a switch up on the leaderboard in this next game. I love the games where there's not one team winning everything. It makes it a lot more exciting, and anything can still happen.
Yeah, that was definitely the case of our last online tournament, right? With Alliance winning everything, and with TSM doing TSM things and winning everything. I believe both NA and EU, 1st place, had at least a 20-point lead above 2nd place, and that's just a matter of consistency and having a really good early start.
Exactly. I'm very, very excited to see the next game.
Yeah, so game number 4, we're setting that up right now. We'll have that underway shortly here, but again, I'm really excited to see this right now. We are getting different circles. We'll see if maybe the circle this time around might pull over to the northwest or anywhere on the western side of the map so far. It's definitely been favoring towards the east, but these are circles that really aren't taking anyone by surprise, right, Lulu?
Yeah, I mean, these players, they play so much, they scrim so much, they know these circles by heart, and I think we'll see. I'm calling a different circle. I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna predict we're gonna have a an outlier circle this next game.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Where do you think it's going to pull?
Let's see. I'm going to say it's going to be Skyhook.
Skyhook.
Yes.
Ooh, okay. A Skyhook pull. Well, we'll see if that's going to be the case. To break down the action for game number 4, we've got, once again, Rain Day and Fallout to bring you all the action. Go ahead and take it away, guys.
Thank you so much, Jamerson. Fallout here, joined back in the Mirage room of the dropship with my man Rain Day. Excited to be bringing you guys game number 3. Lulu looking to channel her inner Nostradamus with her predictions. She did it in online tournament number 1. She's trying to do it again here, Rain Day.
Yeah, game 4, by the way. I don't want to throw them off. We are
Game 4.
moving fast, man. So things are
Time
happening,
flies.
and we got a lot of great teams. We got the Powerpuff Bruvs stepping it up, bringing my childhood into Apex Legends. Not that I would, really watch a lot of, Powerpuff Girls or anything like that,
Yeah,
but it was a show that was on. Let's put it that way. It was a show that was on, and I definitely have seen it once or twice. So, no, congrats to them. 26-point win. We'll see how that carries on, but you got to look at Gambit, who have probably been the most consistent for me, placing in 7th and then placing in 2nd and having a great game, too, as well. But you also got to look, obviously, at Myth, who are still maintaining their lead, albeit not by too many points anymore, Fall. I believe it's only 5, but that's enough right now to claim first place.
Myth actually with a 13-point overall lead in the standings over Gambit with 35 is the standing count as it currently stands. So you're spot on, though. Gambit's been playing incredibly consistent. Myth right there as well with 48 points. They're starting to slowly run away with it, but ultimately I was very impressed with Powerpuff Bruvs in game number 3, the way they were able to position themselves perfectly in that late game circle, take out TI, who had high ground on them. Great rotations coming through. The UK boys are showing up in the big way, of course, minus Ox, who's from Republic of Ireland, and I know that team has a lot of story. They've been grinding for so long, waiting for this moment and this opportunity to make a big statement. Bryn is known to be one of the best mechanical players, or at least most underrated top mechanical players in the game. He's dealing with a lot personally right now, so this means so much to him. Of course, their coach, the EMEF, a big contributor to the community, and a lot of love for him.
Absolutely.
And a big thank you to him for putting together some awesome talent materials and documents, helping us stay up to speed with a lot of EU teams, and their team showed up.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to do sometimes what you think should be easy, which is keeping track of the millions of, not millions, but hundreds of potential free agents and great players who are having good days and bad days and having personal things. And, finding those little notes can really help to create a better storyline for the audience and for people to start watching. But it's great to see this Apex Legends community coming together, giving. I've had a lot of people reach out to me and give me information and tell me a little bit about a backstory or how this person likes to play. So all the shout outs to all the community analysts out there who are really doing such a great job of keeping everyone informed. You're a huge part of the community as we start to look at, I think a real change of pace here where there was this whole dynamic fallout of, we see these two teams in the lead, and Powerpuff Bruvs really took a commanding 14-kill game 3, and we're following along with them here. But what stood out to you the most as far as how they approached that last fight?
Yeah, for me, it was their perfect positioning and them just playing it slow. The way that, they got kind of fortunate with the end game circle, which, by the way, was a completely different end game than what we casted in game number 2. Much more open, and of course, an earlier finish to that one. But they slowly just inched their way in, stayed close to each other. They recognized they had high shields. They recognized in that fight against TI, despite having low side disadvantage, they saw the gray tap, so they knew that they had an advantage in shield and overall resources compared to TI, and they just played it perfectly, get some long-range shots in, hit their shots when it mattered the most, slowly crept their way up and positioned themselves near perfectly. So great, big shout out to them, and it looks like for a 4th game in a row here, we're having an early fight over at Thermal Station. We've seen this fight be 50-50 by the Lord of the Rings Riders of Rohan squad, and they've won a couple of them, lost at least one of them. We'll see if we see another fight over towards Thermal Station here.
And that is the issue when you have these teams that are looking to 50-50, which is essentially split a landing zone. However, if they can take a kill from you, they will. But the idea is we're landing kind of close, you're landing pretty close, and we may fight, but hopefully we're just not going to fight, get looted up, and continue our rotations. It doesn't always work out that way. But this is what happens when you can't assert your dominance, when you can't fully wipe that team and tell them, go here again, you're going to get wiped and you're going to have no chance in this tournament. Clearly, these fights have been not too convincing on the side of Riders of Rohan, which is why they're continually contested. And that is just setting them up for a really bad late game because they're exhausting their resources. Yeah. And then any mid-game fight, they already don't have enough resources to really take that on well. So they're not gaining those things like those blue shields, maybe that one purple after you might kill a stray or find one on a rotation because they don't have enough resources to even start those fights, Fallout.
Yeah, I love that call out. And then you have teams like Powerpuff Bruvs. We just saw them them at the beginning of this game. They go Fragment East and rotate so early. They're known to be one of the early rotators. TSM likes to rotate early and prioritize positioning. Typically, you'll see Pathfinder teams do that early on, and then you have those resources. You have the ammunition, you have the shield cells and what you need to fight towards that late game. So two different styles of play for sure. I know Powerpuff Bruvs drop Fragment East. So does Nasky, Strafe, and Dell, who are known to play incredibly aggressive on the EU side of things, and both of them fare pretty well, as Nasky, Strafe, Dell have qualified for, I think, 3 straight tournaments that Nasky has in online tournaments. So he's been performing incredibly well.
It was a fantastic opportunity for a lot of players to continue making names for themselves. 19 squads left. You see Myth actually taking one down. Amazi's going to fall. This is big. This is the leader of the lobby right now. I don't know if we can get to that spot, but Larabanu, he's going to fall as well. This is not looking good for Myth. This could be huge for not only Gamers Origin, but Gambit Esports, Powerpuff Bruvs, and anyone else looking to get a big win here and get themselves in position to take first place.
Yeah, you're spot on. A great showing right there. Coming through early on, as it looks like from the team that's trying to shut down Myth and turn the tide in this game, as Myth has completely dominated games 1 through 3 in the standings, at least up by 13 points right now. But it looks like unless SHRP can have some sort of great type of rat strat and make it towards late game, it looks like Myth might be in a pretty rough spot here in game 4, opening things up for the remaining teams.
But you know what? I've seen a lot of teams do that, haven't we, Fallout? We've seen a lot of players, and I don't want to keep bringing up North America in a European region, so I won't. But you can imagine that there's a lot of reference points that we've seen where teams are able to just keep finding that solo player that you wouldn't think would be involved into top 6, top 3, and those points are enough to maintain that healthy first place lead. Luckily, he gets out. You're looking at SHRP right now, and you can find that he's just sitting up, camping. He will not move until he has to. This is what he's trying to do to save his team's placement in first place. But right now, you're looking at a lot of other teams who have really seen that, wow, this is our game to potentially take first.
So just like you said, he has no shield, no teammates alive. He's just going to try and rat or hide and stay alive towards that late game and get themselves a few points. If he can pick up 4 or 5 points for Myth here with a top 5, top 6 placement finish, it'll be more than enough to maintain that lead. Easier said than done, as we're now watching Yuki, Deputies & Co. over towards the Harvester. This is Riders of Rohan, who we mentioned has been dropping towards Thermal Station quite consistently. They've traded a couple of those fights, but it looks like this time around on Thermal Station, the fight did not happen. They split the resources and rotated early. Ooh, meanwhile,
oh no, and this is third impact. Black actually goes down, and that is, I believe, actually no, that was G-Dolphin squad right there, who actually ended up falling.
RCO EU.
That is going to be RCO EU, exactly. And that is not what you would like to see there. Third Impact Black was actually a team I was just going to talk about because I felt that they had a very strong final circle last game. And I think that they're a team that looks very lethal, running a lot of flat lines as well. I'm not sure if that was just the game or if that's a preference. One of the hardest hitting guns in the game, allowing you to hit for 20, but also that 40 damage on a headshot, which when you're firing that quickly can be very surprising. And they were involved in that final circle, I believe, shooting from the low ground to the high ground and knocking one before they ended up coming in, I believe, third place.
Currently watching as Nyram and Co. Nyram playing for the Elites. Typically do drop train yard, thanks to some of the intel I got from the EMEF. Big shot to him again, as it looks like they're posted up in Fragment right now towards the very edge of the circle, so they're going to have to rotate certainly towards that late game. Will they go for an early rotation? We'll see if they try to predict this ring and where it will end up. It looks like they're content for now, at least, as they will be planning the rotation here soon.
And you can see, again, 17 squads remaining, but these rotations, like you mentioned, should have already been happening. Most teams will be set up. You'll see a majority of these teams into where they believe the game will be ending. And as it continues to pull towards a little bit of Harvester, really, you might be seeing most of the squads landing out there, maybe towards the choke and train yard. They're holding that in case there's anyone behind them, but there is not. And they're also getting pinched as well. There's a team sitting in the middle of that. So most teams already rotated toward the southwestern side and in the new area of Season 4.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Towards Harvest side. And looks like the FA kids just ran right past Myth, the last remaining member of Myth, who probably heard them, was scared for his life that someone would push inside that building. It looks like they did not. They ran right past him. So Myth lives to fight another day here, trying to squeak a few placement points from this one if he can. He is not in a position to fight, as we said earlier. So currently on board with Kids, Lagger playing for the first time here in this tournament alongside Jay Savage, who's been playing with the FA Kids for quite some time. He's the only remaining member, I believe, from Online Tournament 2.
Enemy over there.
Gamers Origin pretty geared up here. All three with blue shields.
Currently sitting in 7th place with 27 points, if I remember correctly. So they're in that upper echelon. And keep in mind, from 2nd place to 7th place,
second place has 35, 7th has 27. So only 8 points separate those teams. So really, it's anyone's game here for top 2 with Myth way ahead of them. We do see some charge rifle action coming through from Unpet.
Yeah. I love that, man. I mean, you know, the weapon got nerfed successively, and I think for good reason as well. A lot of outcries in the pro scene as to how strong it was. But you can see the impact of having hit scan from this range. 57, he's done over 103 damage in a matter of seconds from a very safe distance in pay. And so they're using that weapon to the best of its abilities. And you'll often see these paired with legends like a Gibraltar, maybe Watson. Hey, Caustic, it's not that crazy to see, especially if they're playing more of a solidifying role in their team to kind of stabilize these fights. They're not necessarily pushing in. They're more of the protector, more of the last man on duty, a utility, so to speak. They'll be able to run these scouts, these charge rifles, as you see another Gibraltar here with that long-range scout, a lot easier than the Wraith, who is going to have to go in, needs that quick burst, like a Wingman, like an R99, like a Peacekeeper. So you'll notice these different loadouts based on these different legends and these playstyles, which obviously will relate to how you might want to outfit your legend in-game if you're looking to pick up some tips.
Yep, I love the insights from my man Rain Day, also known for dropping some awesome YouTube video tips. So, of course, make sure to check that out. I got to give you some plugs, man, because you won't give yourself plugs. You're too humble. But great insights
Thanks,
as
man.
always. And, of course, yep, different weapons, different loadouts depending on the player or the legend you're playing as, but also the role you play. You know, a lot of old school esports titles like Halo, etc., had these roles like lead slayer, support. You see that come to life with Apex Legends as well. Typically, you see more support players in the hands of Watson and Gibraltar, and really your lead slayer in the hands of Wraith. But everyone's got to be able to do everything at one point, though.
Absolutely, and I think that's why we see certain teams, and especially when I mentioned the difference between Europe and North America, still 17 squads left, this circle about to close in about 18 seconds, so we'll see a bit of a pinch, maybe not too many fights yet, but they will start to happen. You'll see these players who have such individual talent sometimes be limited by playing that support role legend. Like a Watson or Gibraltar can only do so much as far as traversing a fight, getting in and getting out. They've kind of got to stand where they are, and that limits your ability to play make, essentially. And there's a big fight coming here, and Oxbro, he's just going to back off, throw thermites. They're pushing this aggressively. The Gibraltar leading the charge this time around.
Yeah, keep in mind, this is our winner of game number 3. Powerpuff Bruvs in a pretty tough spot here. Tagged up, not much shield in the hand of Danny, but here comes the push. They're playing with aggression despite no shield. They know they have an advantage here. Good shot put through with the Ava 8, and that's going to be it. Powerpuff Bruvs survive. No, another team's coming through, Rain Day.
This third party is so bad. They do not want to see this as well, especially after such a great game number 3, but they're going to finish it off with a Havoc as well. Kuia ends up taking down Katie, and so this is a strong start. Not only a few kills, which they had 14 of last game, they're going to make it out alive, which is the hardest choke probably to move through at this point, given where all the teams have already rotated in Harvester, and you can see Kuia finding on Myth that's Cababrilla, a little bit of an angle to where you saw Powerpuff Bruvs have to rotate from now. So they're going to heal up, stock up, get their shields, but this is still going to be a potentially difficult journey out of this tunnel.
Yeah, and we mentioned Lord of the Rings references. Certainly a difficult journey for these folks here as they're going on their own journey. But
oh, man,
a good start, though. Talk about a performance there from Oxbow with 3 kills. That Havoc and Peacekeeper combo, I think he had an Ava 8 previously, was shredding. Despite a third party coming through, he goes huge, Rain Day. Great plays coming through from Powerpuff.
And you know what I really loved about it, too, as well? You may see a little bit of an engagement here happening. There's a team approaching. They heard the noise, and this is not looking good. They're approaching from the backside, but do they do this? This will alert the squad. They can move around the right side, but this is going to give Powerpuff Bruvs an idea that they're seeing. Can we limbo this? Can we get underneath? They're just going to shoot it. And so now Powerpuff Bruvs know someone is behind us. And they may be starting to make a move here, but they're pinched by Myth. And they're taking damage right now from the scout.
And one of the worst spots to be in is, again, you mentioned one of the worst choke points. Here comes a big fight, though. Good shots coming through initially for Streamy and Co. And Powerpuff Bruvs in a world of hurt now, but Streamy's going to get tagged up. He backs up to a good position here, as it looks like this fight is about 50-50 right now here, right now.
I think it's actually tilting away from Powerpuff Bruvs, and that is going to do it. They just were in such a bad position. We mentioned Myth kind of gatekeeping and holding with the scout. It was Kuia still with the scout, doing damage while they were fighting, and that's why the Watson wasn't paying attention behind them. She was healing up based off of that damage that was done, and we have our little quad box here following a few feeds as well. A big fight happening on the ridge that we're going to transfer to with Zerifer and AHG.
It was Elite Esports with the flank there. Meanwhile, AHG are winners of game number 2. Good flank coming through, and Zerifer, again, continues to clutch up. The young man, former Overwatch player, I mentioned from Eastern Europe. I think it's Serbia. Huge plays from Zerifer. Keeps his team alive for now.
that is huge. And you could just, you know the pop-off is happening, but you also know the mad scramble, the dash. You can imagine just when the stocks are plummeting, everybody's yelling, saying, hey, sell, buy, do whatever. I just need to save my money. This is what they're trying to do. Save my life, save my team. Move, scramble. We got to get to a better spot. Matafe's getting that team in order, but Max Strafe, he falls down as well to the scout. So many teams right now trying to poach and pick as people try these late rotations into Harvester.
Yep, on board now with Kababrala in 6th place with 28 points. They've been the kings of poke in this game, just putting so much damage across map, both in that choke point and in that fight where AHG was contesting. They know a team's going to be coming from that same exact choke point that we saw our fight earlier. They're pretty well positioned, but keep on, they're kind of exposed from all angles. The Watson fences will only do so much, as they're going to just try and put as much damage as possible on the pokes and on the rotations, try to pick up some eliminations along the way.
This is a very important part here as well. You can see Myth, Koea, they want to keep this lead, excuse me, not Myth, Kababrala. They want to get involved in these final fights here. We still don't know where SHRP is. We're sure finding a way, potentially still ratting here. I believe he is still alive. High ground here from Mistral. That's a thermite for the ages. Oh my God, talk about value.
Yeah, massive, and he needed that too. He needed to buy some time. It looks like his teammate's not going to do enough. His teammate's going to get taken out. But a great thermite's going to connect for all 3 members of Elites. And now he's just going to use that to try and rotate as they're healing up. But that rotation is going to be tough when you have 3 members of Kababrala just waiting, watching, patiently trying to get some poke.
Uh-oh, and Zinky getting a little aggressive, using a Havoc as well, but you can see Leo Deads and Koea, just with the Scout and the Charge Rifle, have picked off so much damage and forced so many teams into bad spots. If they can maintain the top of this hill on this rotation where teams have to push in, they're going to be able to pick up maybe 2 or 3 kills as long as they stop the Wraith portal, which is what is being attempted to happen here. But you can see, a devotion is in play from Forsaken there, and he just takes down Nasty.
Yep, you know, it's a gold devotion in this season. Pick that up from a spot crate. Looks like they're in a good spot here. And now AHG using this rock for any cover that they could possibly get, healing up. We saw them in a bad position in Game 2, still come out on top with the win. We'll see here if in Game 4 they can make some magic happen again.
Only 50 bullets to his name on the Havoc, so he's going to have to be careful as well, Zip, as far as using that for poke. And there's more Charge Rifle. Is this becoming the meta? Fallout is Charge Rifle back? I don't know. It's looking pretty good to me.
Yeah, hey, that hit scan does wonders if you can connect for shots. Of course, the players can. Like Tika and Co. They're just free reigning around the map right now, getting nades, getting shots wherever they want. I love the positioning from Kababrala right now. It is superior, Rain Day.
It is, and that's exactly why they are getting all these kills. And they're in 6th place as well heading into this, I believe. So they are in a fantastic spot to move very, very high in this leaderboard, potentially overtake first place considering Myth is still in a bit of trouble. But the Gibraltar Ultimate rains down. Leo Dead's still content to hold this high ground for now.
Yeah. And with this great positioning comes, you know, really they're exposed in a lot of ways. There's a lot of pressure on them right now, and the fact that they're playing so calm, so collected, so well as a team says how well they handle that pressure. They were one of our kind of dark horse teams in online tournament number 2. They've solidified themselves as one of our top experienced teams now, as they've been putting in work and only improving since online tournament 2, where they came out of nowhere with a huge performance.
Third Impact as well, getting another kill, and they take down Zeriford. This could be it for actually Ad Hoc Gaming and Matafe's squad. They're the ones with the devotion, and they are still fragging out. We're not able to follow off. Matafe is alive. Can he clutch what we've seen him do so many times? The big plays, big Peacekeeper, 99. He's going to hit again. That's 1 down. Matafe, can he do it again? He's going to try for the armor swap, but it's a white. It's not as much as he wanted, but it's a little bit more than what he had, using the bubble for his disruption. Oh boy, 121. He might have just bought enough time.
The plays from Matafe, unbelievable, showing as he armor swaps to blue without even us realizing it. Gets some good shots in. He's not done yet. Tries to get through. Somehow still alive with just an ounce of HP to his name. Matafe, some way, somehow, manages to continue on.
And he looks like he's in the bubble as well, so he's getting the fast heal passive before it goes. I'm not sure that's even his, but he's going to use it. 9 squads left, and Zerifer, he is going to be finished. So that is just Matafe by himself. They know he's around somewhere. He's going to have to clutch up. No more into the void, and he's just going to jump down. He's going to make sure they don't get his loot, potentially. And I think that's why he just tried to put that bin down there. He sacrificed himself for the good of, well, nobody else's team was dead. But he's absolutely made the most of that situation. Incredible play from Matafe.
Did everything he could. An absolute freak on the sticks in terms of individual mechanical skill. Y'all love watching the stream. But now, on board Gamers Origin, the French team currently in a world of hurt. They're going to get taken out here unless Sirius can work some absolute magic. Looks like the ult's going to come through as well. Defensive bombardment. And it is a tough situation right now for Gamers Origin. Their backs against the rock, quite literally.
And they lost in pay as well. Look at this. Kababrala setting themselves up for fantastic positioning towards the end. They've got the high ground. Zeke rotating with the portal early. And there's the Havoc just shredding. That's why you gotta respect the energy ammo. He spots an Evo shield. Rat hiding out. Who was that? It was XKFU, I guess. So that's gonna be another one. All of these kills from the Havoc coming through. Kababrala is sitting pretty.
And Randa, I love this decision from Zeke as Wraith opting to go wide left without his teammates support, saying, hey, I can get so much tags on these people and I can easily just port right back to my teammates. So he's going to use that portal right now to do so much damage, pick up so many eliminations, huge plays from Zeke.
It's really impressive, but he's trying to get this finished because they know how powerful kills are. It's an extra point. You don't know whether you're going to make it to the next leg, and that's Oznazeni, and that is going to be the Gamer's Origin, but it doesn't look like there's a full change of squads. It doesn't go down to 4 squads, so maybe there is still one from GO alive, but this is the team you got to worry about. With the Devotion, 3rd Impact Black, I mentioned them earlier. This team has been performing very consistently, had a great 3rd placement last round, and they're setting up their portal right now.
I was just about to say, they have a Pathfinder and a Wraith, so good rotations are going to come through. They're going to opt for the Wraith rotation. And they're also decently positioned, but they're going to have to go through Kababrala, who's even better positioned in circle, I believe, or close to it. Here comes the portal coming through. Good shots put in cross map. Huge plays coming in from Forsaken as he's going to get tagged up a bit as well.
Are you kidding me? All those headshots and the tracing, it's perfect. This man's put the time in on the scout, no doubt. And now it's time for 5 more squads to continue this push. 7 seconds left, Fallout. It's do or die. 2 Evo shields and 1 gold shield as well from Sadyama and squad. This is looking deadly as well. No one's really paying attention to them in this fight.
Yeah, Dead Inside, another team we haven't talked much about because they kind of came out of nowhere in this online tournament. Still alive in this one. Kababrala as well. Here comes the push from TI as they hit that portal. Good shots put cross map again with the Devotion. This time he's going to absolutely melt. Just like he did with the scout earlier. Can't stop yet. Good shots put in. He saves his teammate's life, and now they are raining fire, Rain Day.
Look at this Devotion work. He's got a reload, but that's all he needed. He's got high ground. No one's looking at this man and this gold weapon. There's a reason it's a drop weapon now and not found on the ground. That is damage from 3rd Impact Forsaken. He's putting it to work. He's going to armor swap as well and try to win this 1v1, but it's Stanix who's not going to stop. He's from Dead Inside, and he wants to win too.
What a play from Forsaken on that high ground and still alive somehow. Stanix going to play aggressive here. Going to get tagged up quite significantly. 1 versus 1. For the win in this one. 2 squads remain. A 1 versus 1 for the bread here, Raiden.
Oh, the pop with the Peacekeeper, and he gets the kill. I believe that's Stanix with the dub, and that's Dead Inside with the victory. No one spotted him out until it was too late. But oh my God, 2 Evo shields and a gold shield. I guess that'll do it for you, Fallout.
Yeah,
I guess that'll do.
That'll do the trick. Forsaken did everything he could with the armor swaps, trying to play a little ring around the rosy there, and it ultimately, in a 1 versus 1, he ended up getting taken out. But I gotta say, my hat goes off to Forsaken by getting top rock, playing with that Devotion, and putting in so much damage. He must have done at least 600 damage there towards that end game, but ultimately it was Dead Inside, led by Stanny, who came out on top with a huge 1v1 play. Great Peacekeeper crack, and he ended up with the victory.
Yeah.
Great plays from Dead Inside, and my hat goes off, like I said, to TI.
And it's not easy to do what they do because to manage a situation like that takes repetition. It takes practice. It takes knowing what you need to do, and they did it perfectly. These teams are playing at an ultimately high level. Love what I saw there, and congrats to Dead Inside for the victory.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. These late game circles are getting better and better each time. There's so much to talk about. I'm going to go ahead and throw it back over to Jamerson and Lulu to break it down.
Rain Day, Fallout, thank you so much. And what a game number 4 and a huge victory for Dead Inside. Lulu, they were sitting at 11th place just before this game, but a huge win like this is going to propel them up the leaderboard so quickly.
It is, and especially since, again, we see a new winner. So it's going to shake up the leaderboards a little bit there.
Yeah, shaking up the leaderboards indeed. I mean, you got to imagine that they end with, what, around 20 points? We'll find out in just a moment as we get the results coming in. But going from 11 points to maybe 30 points, that could put them close to Gambit, who are sitting at 35 right now. Again, though, Gambit did, I think, got some KP there. So we're still waiting on the results. But, I mean, there's so much to talk about. Like you had mentioned, right? We've had 4 separate winners across 4 games so far, and that means points aren't just being completely monopolized at the top. It's getting spread out amongst all of our leaderboards so far, and so we're going to see the middle of the pack change a lot. So I'm really excited to see exactly where where we're going to be here. Now, we do have something we would want to talk about. We got to see throughout a lot of this game from the perspective, I believe, of Cababrilla, who were holding a really strong position outside of the tunnels, but there was a lot of action going on at the tunnel connector between Trainyard and Harvester.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, this is the tunnel of death. If you're going to hold this tunnel, you have to watch your back, and then this team just they got pushed up on, and if you're not finishing this fight fast, you know, Cababrilla could have easily, you know, they were on the hill watching this. They could have pushed in and swept in on this fight too. But really, this team, we watched them, and I think they just thought they were clear in the back. And, you know, that's a hard tunnel to hold if you're not 100% sure there is no team that's going to push in behind you.
But like you had mentioned, you have to finish off the fight fast. You need to reset really quickly, because we saw, even though they won that 3v3, they didn't drop a member. The third party was already coming in. Luckily, they were able to reset after that. I believe that was the Powerpuff Bruvs taking out Lazarus there. But even shortly after that, they got pushed by someone else, and they got taken out early on. And you had mentioned it, you know, you get sandwiched really quickly, even though you think you had cleared your back already. That's why it's so important when when you have a Watson on your team to make sure you at least fence up the back.
Yeah.
Sure, the traps die really quickly, right? But at least it gives you information.
Yeah, and I really didn't see that many fences from the team that was holding the tunnel, so maybe next time they'll put up a little bit more fences there.
Yeah, sometimes gives you some false security, because I think we saw the Powerpuff Bruvs creeping up on that.
Jumping
and they
over
were just kind of like, they were just playing parkour, right? They're doing their best, like, Michael Scott impression, parkour, hopping around everywhere. And sometimes it lulls you into a false sense of security.
Yes.
But you really do have to be careful playing those tunnels there. And even then, sure, you can win that fight, but we saw Cababrilla, we're just playing gatekeepers right outside. And it looks like we do have the Game 4 results. We're going to have those popping up very shortly here. But again, with how many teams have been able to get into the top 5 and how many different teams we have able to take the win, we're going to have a shakeup soon. But here are your Game 4 results. Dead Inside, they do get the 12 points from their first place finish, and they also get 8 KP off that, getting a grand total of 20. But talk about names that have been consistent. Third Impact, Cababrilla, Free Agent Kids, making sure they are maintaining their points and staying on top of the leaderboards.
Yeah, and honestly, let's see. I wouldn't be surprised because Cababrilla, they did get a good amount of points, and they were pretty much on top. So that's gonna shoot them up a little bit. And these are a lot of the teams that we talked about that we said they should watch for, and here we see them.
I think the only team we're missing so far is like Click, who are currently sitting, as you can see on the overall points, in 18th right now. But in our top 5, Third Impact at 47 points, Cababrilla at 42, Myth now sitting at 41, who have finally been toppled from the top of the leaderboard. And right behind them is Gambit Esports along with Ad Hoc Gaming. Look at that,
so
1 point
close.
split amongst the 4th, 5th, and 6th position.
I mean, even down to 8th is only 31, and like that's, what is that, quick math? 16-point difference? Like, I love these. I love these games where, every game has a new winner, and it's a shakeup. I love it.
You're absolutely right. Again, it's a shakeup after shakeup, but I would say, though, for consistency, Third Impact and Cababrilla, along with Myth, staying there within our top 5. Those are teams that we really do have to look out for, but they shouldn't feel safe at all. They should not feel safe at all as we head into game number 5 later on, because there are people just right behind them. Now, there is a pretty stark drop once we get to around 10th place. I mean, take a look. From Dead Inside sitting at 8th, BDS is behind them by 10th, but on the 10th place spot is Outsiders, 14 points behind them.
Yeah, that is pretty big of a drop, but, one insane game, who knows? They could shoot one of the lower teams up the leaderboard.
Yeah, you just as a team, drop a 20 bomb and you get the win. There you go. All of a sudden you're first or something. Actually, it might be a little bit out of that realm of possibility for 10th place to try and take first.
It'd be
Again,
a
third.
really big game.
And you kind of we go back to our roots of of playing kill races, right? Or just respawn farming and stuff.
Don't
It's no, let him respawn.
Don't think we'll see that happen, but.
And so it looks like we do have some more replays from game number 4. There was a lot of action. And again, these are circles that have been very consistent. You predicted Skyhook. We didn't get Skyhook, but
Maybe
it did go towards at least the western side of the map. And so we're channeling that Lulu energy to give us different circles here. It's a Harvester circle, and here we go. This is what we wanted to talk about. The gatekeeping coming up from Cababrala.
They held this top hill for such a long time, and this is one of the non-Gibraltar teams, so they don't have a bubble to throw down, but they hug this rock, and they're able to just, poke here, poke there, and holding that hill really, for this part of the game, worked out well for them.
Yeah, it looked like, just a lot of free KP for them. You see Kuya there. He's got the scout. There was also a charge rifle in play.
They're just poking everyone.
I tried my best not to, let any disdain go through there. Charge rifle gamers. But no, charge rifle has become kind of in the meta, especially with the addition of the Evo shields in EU, where you're able to just charge it up for free. As you can see, Kuya, he probably got it off the scout, but he's already on that red Evo shield.
Yeah, and especially, giving one of your support players in the beginning of a game, giving them the Evo shield, giving them a charge rifle, and letting them sit back and just charge it up so fast. It's a really great way to play now, honestly.
Yeah, and taking a look, they ended up Cababrala getting 7 kill points off of that, and a lot of that was by holding that position, holding that high ground that has a really great vantage point over Harvester. It's one of those brutal power positions that you can use, and they played towards that position well, right? They had the long range weaponry for it. A lot of the low ground positions on Harvester on that western side, you have great vantage point into it. So the high ground over at Harvester really isn't high ground when you compare it to the position that Cababrala were holding there.
Yeah, and those the weapons that they were using is great for that, top portion, that high point, but when you get to those in circles and we saw them fighting around the rocks, that's when you might want to try to pick up a PK or a wingman.
Yeah, that's the difficult part, right? Where they were getting their kills, it was to their north. It was outside of the circle. They were trying to play gatekeeper against the teams that were coming over from that connector tunnel from Train Yard, and they're not able to recover it. They're not able to swap off weapons, and the ring pulled away from their hill. And so not having close range weapons or dual close range weapons to work with really did end up punishing them there in the end.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see what they do in this next game, and I'm still hoping for a Skyhook circle. I'm still holding on to that.
All right, and so our top 3 teams are separated by about 6 to 5 points here. So game number 5 is going to be a very important one. And to bring you all the action, we've got Golden Boy and Bravo to bring you the last game for EU Finals.
Thank you so much, Jamerson. Yes, this is it. It's coming down to the wire, folks. Let's not waste any time, Bravo. And let's just jump in because the game's already started, and we're about to watch the final game here for the European Finals. Rob, this is nuts. This has been that game 4 was just insane.
It absolutely was, and I'm so happy that we've seen kind of after the first 2 games, games 3 and 4 were full of surprises. I expect game 5 to absolutely be no exception. If you're just joining us, this is game number 5 of the European Finals here for the online tournament of the Apex Legends Global Series, the official Apex Legends Series here, online tournament number 3. As you heard during the break, Myth is a team that is going to want to fight back into that number 1 spot. They have lost that after holding it for essentially the majority of the day. Third Impact Black right now in first with 47. Cababrala looking to repeat. They have second place with 42 points. Just 1 point behind them is Myth with 41. And as we talked about, it's a real close fourth. About really 4th through 8th is really tight in terms of points. It's going to be a great number 5.
Yeah, indeed it is, man. We got a fight going on over here at Thermal. It seems like Click getting into the action right away, finding a few players. They're going to be down low, and Paradox needs to be careful. Be very low on effective health, but we'll have some shields to remaining, and Taxi's going to get pushed from the side, and that is going to do it. We already have our first team that's going to be wiped, and that's Click.
Oh my word, and that's going to be pretty tough news for them, especially because, as you heard, actually, Jamerson actually mentioned they were in 18th coming into this game, and that will essentially guarantee them a bottom-of-the-table exit. They're now going to have to set their sights on online tournament number 4, go back to the drawing board and look at what they can improve for that next week. But that's punishing. That's tough. You're coming into Game 5 with lots of energy, you know, GB, and then right away to be the first team eliminated on the drop. Unfortunate for them, but we still got 19 squads that want to fight this one out.
Jeez, what a start and a rough start for Click, for sure. In any case, so a team that needs to have a spectacular game here in order for them to be able to come out with the win. It's going to be Myth. Third Impact, by the way. Huge shout out for them because they have been consistent throughout this entire competition. Okay, finishing in the top 3, I believe finishing in the top 3 4 out of 4 games. I may be wrong on game 1, but then again, I was wrong on a lot of things in game 1. So we'll just
I think
get
they got
later.
around, you might remember it, GB. I think they exited around 8th or 9th. Remember, you made the
okay,
call
so 3,
right before
so
things got
3
thin. Yeah.
out of 4. See, look at that. GB's always wrong. GB's always wrong in the chat. Anyway, there you go. How consistent have they been? And they've been rewarded with that as well, by the way, given that they are sitting at first, looking pretty.
Yep, and that's something we talk about every week, right? You can say on the one hand that you know, we're here with a BR, lots of RNG, etc. But keep in mind, across 5 games, what we've largely seen is that teams that are able to just get that certain level of consistency, that 5 games is arguably kind of that minimum where on any given tournament Monday now that we see here in the ALGS, a team that steps up, even if you have a rough games 1 and 2. I mean, if there might be no better example of that than the likes of TSM, who we'll see later on today. You know, consistency across the 5 games is what will win you these events, the ALGS points, and the cash.
Yeah, and a consistent top 10 placement for Third Impact could very well be the case. But a team that's kind of been awoken, say, in this one has been the Powerpuff Grubs, who were being treated to here. A dramatic win in game number 3 when we finally left some of the more predictable circles that we were going to be getting over by sorting. Now we see the Powerpuff Grubs. They're in contention. They're fighting for this in this game 5. And this is going to be largely dependent on what goes on with a lot of these other teams that are going to be in the bubble, right? Teams that are within that top 3. You know, the likes of Ad Hoc, who I don't know if you saw just there, ended up losing someone. Someone did go down, so there is a fight currently taking place for Ad Hoc. And then you got Kababrula, who I think Evan, Rainday, as well as Fallout were talking about before. A team that had kind of shocked all of us in the beginning, and now we're talking about them as fixtures of European Apex competitive. They also are going to be in an interesting spot as well because they're in 2nd place currently.
Yeah, that's what's cool about this is week in, week out, we keep talking about this is an opportunity for a team to make a name for themselves. But because we have such high frequency, and now also with Apex adding more online tournaments with the kind of stay and play initiative and everyone being you know, forced to play from home and take it easy and put a lot of their lives on pause now that there's even more tournaments added, I think we're now coming in you know, and now, like you said, teams are not only making a name for themselves in these events, but they're now week in, week out teams that we expect to be here, which is really exciting as well.
What does Myth do? Question on a lot of our minds here because they have had quite the competition thus far. Currently going to be hanging out over here by Train Yard. They see a few targets that are going to be inside of that little trailer down there. We go for a few shots and get some pot shots out there, right? 19 squads remaining. If you're just joining us in real and you know, confused as to who was that first team that was eliminated, it was going to be Click. That went out early on in a fight by Thermal. It was we switched over and I was like, wait a minute, maybe this could be a spectator thing. Maybe it's showing that surely this guy hasn't fallen this early in the fight. Nope, that was not the case. Click, unfortunately, will be taking an early exit out of these European finals. And don't forget, later on today, we're also going to be having the North American finals that will be taking place. You know, I know a lot of fans are looking forward to that one. You're going to see the likes of the Sniper Abusers, NRG, TSM, Fnatic NA, names that you are, I'm sure, very familiar with, but that will be later as we have our sights set on this spectacular European final thus far. Bravo.
Absolutely, and talking about just the beacon that we have right now in terms of location, obviously a lot of teams are going to be ready for that train pull. It's not a guaranteed train pull just yet, I wouldn't say. We still have a little bit of Mirage. It goes as far south as Mirage Voyage and even all the way down to things like Hot Springs and High Ground. And we do still have a little bit of things like Fisher in here as well. So not yet guaranteed train yard, and there's still a little bit of drill in as well, as teams are going to kind of make their way through the drill, try choke into Lava Fisher. But essentially a lot of tricky routes that are going to be happening between teams getting out of drill, through Canyon Pass, into train yard. There's a lot of pretty difficult movements coming earlier on than later. In our games 1 and 2, you had teams getting into certain areas of the map and then locking them down, places like Sorting, places like Lava City North, etc. We're going to see a little bit less of that because these teams that are still, especially teams that are still at Skyhook, for example, take a look at BDS, they're going to have to make earlier moves than what we saw earlier today.
And we had Easy Clap actually go down there. That was going to be Roger, who is out of this one. BDS now on the push, finding a player tucked away inside. That's going to be his teammate Anarchy. So not looking like an easy clap here today for them. An unfortunate situation as they are going to be out of here as our 19th squad. BDS going there and playing a cleanup on that one. Aisle 3. Well done by them.
Yeah, those are the guys, once again, formerly known as Lazarus, coming in here with the new team. An early exit there, but now we're seeing everyone get really comfortable, and they're also getting really comfortable in parts of drill / Canyon Pass / Lava Fisher that are a little bit less traditional. Take a look at this on the southern part of the Canyon Pass choke with Na'Vi. These are not areas that teams are necessarily used to setting up along. You do not pack teams into this Canyon Pass triple choke. This is an area that is really used between Lava Fisher and drill, and teams are going to be holding drill, but because of exactly the edge of where the circle's pulling, you're seeing very different setups. And like I mentioned, teams are right now forced into much earlier chokes and battles than we have been treated to for the rest of the day. I expect things to be much thinner going into our final circles, unless everyone really, really just plays even more conservative than normal. Which could be the case. We'll have to see how.
Which is a very strong possibility, man. This is the finals. This is Game 5. This is for all of the marbles. And if you try and get a little reckless here, it will cost you a pretty penny. So I could see a lot of players looking to play conservative, holding on to their corners, playing angles, and taking this one real slow. I would not be shocked if that is the case.
By the way, got to mention teams, as you actually see on screen, perfect timing here from our observers. Teams are still pushing up from that Thermal North choke into Mirage Voyage territory. As I just took a look on the obs, we still have 5 teams that are right around here surrounding Mirage Voyage. So there are still going to be 5, and if you even include teams that are more towards Bridge and High Ground-ish, we have about 6 teams that are still along this southern side that are still have yet to make their way into an area like Train.
That's right. Looking now at Dead Inside, our Game 4 winners. They went for a few pot shots, earlier. Do want to make a reminder for everyone once again that we do apologize for the rubber banding that you're seeing on the spectator client. In case you're wondering, our observers are actually located in North America, connecting to the European servers. So obviously with producing online broadcasts, it always is going to be a bit of a challenge. But getting back to the action though, as BDS is going to go for push in here. Psychop is going to go down. You got Chromo's going to be feeling a little bit of the hurt here. Needs to be careful now, as Cutie's going to be also low. And this is not looking good for BDS. BDS cannot afford to go out this early here. This will not be a situation that they would want to find themselves in. BDS currently, I believe, in the overall standings are going to be placed around like top 10. So a loss here could spell doom for them, but there goes that little trophy system there, the Watson generator that goes down and blocks any of the ordnance that's going to be making its way forward. AHD ad hoc gaming, say that 5 times fast. Matafe, by the way, can we talk about that play from Matafe in Game 4? Because that was stupendous, man. He's just constantly been impressive this whole European final.
Absolutely. It's a great switch once again from the observing team, because I do want to say, you saw in the kill feed that Ad Hoc Gaming was here as well. They were also picking up kills on outsiders, and they are looking to claim this central portion of drill as they are wasting no time. I'm loving what I'm seeing from Matafe. Take a look. But really just playing the Wraith perfectly, getting into these fights, making sure he's flying in and helping his team to engage early and get that info as well. He has to go back, though, and pick up that one as well. That's going to be BDS. And I had a feeling once I saw Ad Hoc Gaming in the feed where you saw BDS taking those fights, I'm thinking Ad Hoc Gaming is going to be very selective. If they're taking this fight, they're taking it for a reason, and they come out on top there. 16 squads left.
Well, Ad Hoc Gaming has not been able to get themselves a win in games 3 and 4. You know, game 4 was that just mind-blowing play there by Matafe with the Peacekeeper, looking to keep his team in the battle. But maybe this could be a difference here for this squad, and whether or not AHG can pull away a big win in game number 5. We'll see how that will shake up the standings. Another team, consistency has been their name, is Third Impact. Myth as well, let's not forget. Even though Myth did have an early exit in game 4, they have been pretty good thus far. Good enough to win? We'll see.
Absolutely, that's the question. Really great game number 1 from them that we saw, I believe, second place in game number 2 as well. And now, like you said, playing in third, they're going to have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, knowing that they've been leading essentially the entire afternoon for us in the U.S. and also the entire evening for them in Europe. They are going to want to reclaim that spot. You do see in terms of what we're seeing in Train, Third Impact has the westernmost bottom cars, and they also, might have been noticing on their screen that they have a lot of freedom across these bottom 3 train cars, which gives you a little bit of information about just how packed Train Yard is, as I have been keeping an eye on some of the observer screens as well. They are actually only one of 2 teams in Train Yard, so teams have moved out of Train. There's only 2 left as teams get ready to go a little bit further west towards Fisher, towards Mirage.
Oh, man, and then you're going to have Kababrula on the approach now. That is going to be an elimination on Na'Vi. Goodbye, and a good effort, without a doubt, from Na'Vi, a legendary esports organization. Unfortunately, won't have a legendary run here in the European finals. And, man, this rotation from Drill Site is going to be very interesting. We have one team that's going to be going in through that triple choke, and that will be looking right now. I think that's going to be Kababrula that is outside still by Drill Site. Could be wrong, but we'll keep eyes on it, though. And AHG is going to be right in the thick of things, right inside of it.
And this is what I wanted to point out earlier. When we saw Na'Vi at the southern part of this choke is of course, if you've been playing World's Edge, you're well aware. For those of you who haven't got a lot of competitive time on this triple choke is not an area where we should see teams setting up along uncomfortable cliffs that early in the game. That was a telltale sign that we were bound to see much earlier battles as teams try to establish some level of control in less traditional end circles, and specifically earlier rotations than they want to have to make. And now the fact that there's only one team in Canyon Pass, which is Ad Hoc Gaming, is another indicator of that. Ad Hoc Gaming, by the way, with several kills on the board already that we've seen, which is big for them because they're right in the 5th place spot, only down by about 11 points from first place. So they are totally, as Lulu and Jamerson have been saying, they are one of the teams that is totally in the running to take this thing with a huge game 5.
A little note, by the way, looking at a few of the observer feeds that we have available to us, it was FA kids that were going to be the ones over by Drill Site, went for the wide rotation, going all the way around and keeping their back against the safe zone. And then they go so low that they manage to get out of dodge and go into the clear. So FA kids still going to be holding on to this one. Even though they're going to be low on the standings, a big win here could be the difference for them cash-wise. Playing for that money. Going into this round, I believe they only had 14 points scattered across these games. So, hey, a win could propel you up, but it also depends on who gets knocked out from the 14 squads that we have remaining, and a lot of big names still very much in this one, Bravo.
Absolutely, and that's a big circle pull that we just saw. Got to talk about it because essentially what we just saw was a pull that moved in on an area where almost none of the teams were. Everyone from Mirage Voyage has to come north. Anyone who was southern part of Fisher has to come south, and anyone who is still in Train, Third Impact, as we said, one of the only 2 that were still in Train, they have to come west. Essentially, this is now moving even earlier into very unpopulated open land, maybe even earlier than a lot of these teams thought, especially the teams that were trying to stay cozy at Fisher and Mirage.
Can't stay cozy for too long in Apex, Bravo, because the circle is not your friend. It is your biggest enemy here, and you will have to obey its will because it will punish you if you are not careful. Lots of teams are still going to be circling around this, as you see on your screen, folks. Players coming in from Lava Fisher. You got Third Impact here, hanging out toward the eastern side of the circle. looking to just hold this one down. Could Third Impact find themselves a critical win here and maintain their first place finish? So far, so good for them, though, as there's only going to be 12 squads remaining, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, and the pressure really is on Third Impact. Once again, if you're just joining us, welcome to game number 5, European Finals here for online tournament number 3 in the Apex Legends Global Series. They only have a 5-point lead for that first place spot. So this is not a guarantee. This is not something where they're sitting on a 13-point extra where they can simply just play super placement. They're already playing ring edge, so they need to be very careful here. This is much trickier than you might think, even though they're in first place and they're doing okay on armor. They have to be very strategic in how they approach these end circles. Nothing is guaranteed. The rest of the table is simply too close.
Gambit's going to be another team that is in the running there, sitting at top 4 right now with 37 points. A strong finish for them could mean a victory. Off screen, the kill came through for Third Impact, picking up one of their own. Gambit getting it down at the other end of that one. G-Dolphin's still going to be in this too. Just as I say that, he actually goes down. That was going to be from FA kids that punish him on that. AHG still in this fight. But Third Impact, though, this is not looking good for Third Impact. The first place team could actually be in a world of hurt here. Balloon just going to try and hold this one down, but Balloon can't do so as he is down. And they do have a gold shield, though, gold knockdown shield. Maybe they can res themselves and bring it back into this, perhaps?
This is going to be... Let's go ahead and see how he plays this. I mean, this essentially... Oh, my word.
Okay, I was like, what is going on here? He did get away from that. We did switch away from it. He's rezzing himself back, by the way. He's rezzing himself back, Balan. He's back in the fight.
We gotta know what's happening. We gotta know what's happening.
He's back in the fight, and he's got the Phoenix kit ready. We switched out of it, but I saw it on the quad feed. He's still in this one. Third Impact not out of this quite yet, folks. 8 squads remaining.
Okay, so obviously Balan G can rat out here, and what? Thanking the lucky stars, of course, of the golden knock, which keeps, we were moments away from calling Third Impact, essentially leaving this game wide open where any team could steal the win. Now Balan G, also, by the way, in terms of heals, not looking too wealthy as well. I think I only saw 2 syringes. We'll have to see what's around in terms of loot boxes, but oh boy, is this ever a fantastic story. Also, Gambit, by the way, we haven't talked about them enough in game number 5. They are in 4th with 37 points, so this is a amazing top 10.
Yeah, so Leo just got a clean kill on Amaz, so Myth is going to be out of this. This is insane. I'm just keeping my eye on the feed because I want to know if Balan manages to stay alive. That self-revive is bananas. Oh, dude.
Yeah, I think you and I were thinking the same thing where we didn't see his name in the kill feed.
Well, I was looking at it the whole time. I saw him make the play to go through the rift. So I knew that he was going for some kind of a miracle play there. Okay, so now Myth, SHRP is going to be bled out there. Stanny is going to pick up another one. You know what that means. Stanny's in this, dead inside, kind of having a late game resurgence now. As we're on board with Kababrula. Kuya up on the high ground with that G7 scout. Also is going to have some ordnance here for the final moments. You love to see it, right? Busting out a few of those incendiaries to just try and force him out of this.
We're not actually seeing ticks there on that thermite, so that one might have been just out of reach. There's Mpe, by the way, on red. And look at Gamers Origin in the shields department. They are looking very good here. Might be playing from low ground, but they are going to have a ton of options to get up. Of course, TP plus the Gibby Bubble. They really won't have too much trouble getting out of a hairy situation should they find themselves in one. Now 5 squads left. GB Kababula on your screen. They're still in 2nd place.
Yeah, and this is looking like it's going to be a battle between Kababrula as well as Gamers Origin. You got Gambit, a team just got wiped out. FA Kids is going to be out of this, and we had that screen for a brief moment. I want to know who it is. It's Balan G! Balan G's still alive! He's still alive! He made it to top 4! He's in top 4! He got himself 5 points! I cannot believe it, Bravo!
This could be the tournament-winning play, folks. We're going to have to wait, of course, until the final word, but 4 squads left. Balan G still up top. Look at this. And honestly, might be able to pick up a few more placement and kill points yet. He's not even fully ratted just yet. He's actually good in this next circle closure. as well. This is insane from
Rat
Balance.
status engage, people, because he just needs to bury himself in a hole in the grass and just live there for at least another few seconds. If he can stay alive and just let one of these other teams fight each other, which it seems like Gamers Origin is about to engage in a battle here against Kababrala. Kababrala trying to go for the strat up above. Oh no! Oh no! They just saw Balanji! They just saw Balanji, but he manages to phase on out of there. He still manages to live. Not dead quite yet, and finally, the end here for Third Impact, but I cannot believe what we just saw. It is now whittling down to the final moments here. Bravo, top 3 teams remaining.
Take a look at this now. Gamers Origin is actually melted right away by the ult, and they're going to be careful. Only Most as any is the one left here now with 3 spots left.
These teams now, Bravo, this is it. These teams, last ones standing. Gambit, Leo tries to go in for the cleanup. As far as we have players still standing, though, it's going to be Gambit alongside with Ziki from Kababrala. You also have Gamers Origin still going to be in a fight. 3 teams still standing tall in this battle. And, oh man, so it looks like Kababrala is actually going to be out of here. The gold revive shield is not going to be able to be activated. Gambit have a few players left alive. It will be Gamers Origin holding up on the high ground, trying to put down some damage. Is this going to be enough, though? Gambit does go down, and this is looking like Gambit picks up the win, a critical win for the 4th place team coming into this one. I cannot believe it, but there was just so many crazy moments coming out of that game, Bravo. I just couldn't. That was awesome.
I don't know if I've ever been less sure of an exact points total coming out of a Game 5 just because of what Balanji was able to do, right? And staying alive that long, ending, I believe, in 4th. Gambit will take that, and like you said, that's big for them because Gamers Origin was in 7th place coming into Game 5, but Gambit was all the way in 4th, only 4 points away from 3rd. You also had Kababrala there in our final top 4. And also remember, Myth was in around the top 6 or 7 at least. So
yeah,
we essentially have all of our top 4 teams placing within the top 5 there. And essentially, it's going to come down to kill points.
Third Impact gets at least 5 placement points out of that. I don't know the kill split quite yet. And I'm trying to look at the numbers here, but Third Impact, so they had 0 kills.
Me too.
So Third Impact only was able to get the placement points there. So 5 points for them, giving them 52 points total. Meanwhile, Gambit had 37. So with the 12 that they got, plus looking at the numbers here, I want to say 11 kills. I think it's safe to say that Gambit has leapt up a few spots, and Third Impact is not walking away with this win. But we're going to have to wait for the official results.
Yes, we are going to wait for those calls to come in, but very interesting math, like you said, to see zeros across the board for Third Impact, but a 4th place finish. Oh man, and Kababrala there with 4 total.
Even with the 4th place finish, it was still a miracle that Balanji was able to get out of there. Even with it, because he was dead to rights. He was down. The only thing he had left, his final play, was that gold knockdown shield. Self-revives, manages to come back into the fight with a shield battery and a med kit, and then just ratted in a corner, hid for like the longest time, just owned the space. Crazy.
It was an amazing Game 5. I think that was an example of a finals that only got better and better and better throughout the entire series. And a fantastic one for Europe here in online tournament number 3.
Fantastic matchup. We're going to find out where the final placements stand. But for now, let's send it back over to our analysts. You got Jamerson and Lulu to break down the insanity that was Game 5. Take it away, guys.
Golden Boy, Bravo, thank you so much for bringing us game number 5. And what a match to end EU on.
Honestly.
And at this point, Lulu, we said it at the beginning of this game, or just before the start of this game, game number 5, the final one, that it was not clear who was going to win at this point, because we've had 4 separate winners so far. Now that's 5. And now we're just waiting for the final tally here, because honestly, anyone could walk away with first place at this point.
You're right. And so many teams in that top 5 situation, they needed that win. They were all up there, most of them. And I cannot wait to see the leaderboards. I can't wait to see the points.
Though this is looking good for Kababrala getting a 3rd place finish. I don't know how many KP they got. We're still waiting, of course, on the final kill point tallies to figure out what it was. But hey, we also got a distinct fifth circle here. Not, it's not all situated in the same exact area. It did go west once more. At this point, it did go to Skyhook. Sorry, we never got our Skyhook
Maybe
circle.
an NA.
Maybe an NA, hopefully. But I mean, your energy was slowly pulling it there. We just need to kind of will it into existence a little bit more. But still, what an amazing game so far. And again, we're talking about the consistency of these players. We're seeing the same teams again getting into the final late game, being the final 5 teams. As we take a look at the final moments of game number 5, what really cemented a great finish for EU.
Oh, playing on this cliffside too. It was, it gave me anxiety.
Definitely here. I mean, it was really unfortunate for Gamers Origin dropping down onto Cababrilla, I believe. And so getting those trades, they take the 2v1. You saw he was trying his best to play around his Watson, but it just wasn't enough. Eventually, the numbers game wins out, and Gambit will take that win. And honestly, this is a huge, huge performance throughout the entire day for Gambit, for a team that hasn't been able to shine as much as a lot of people were expecting over the last 6-7 months of competitive play, as we have the Game 5 results.
Let's see. Gambit getting second. Gamers Origin getting first. Gambit actually only 1 point behind though. They got a good amount of kills, and Cababrilla also. Not as many kills as I thought they had, or I thought they had a lot more kills, to be honest.
So despite getting the first place finish, there were a lot more kill points in the favor of Gamers Origin. So they ended up the overall point leaders in game number 5. But the overall standings of the entire tournament is going to be Gambit Esports taking the win by 2 points over Gamers Origin. And so, yeah, that placement finish is the big difference maker there. Remember, I believe it's a 3-point difference between first and second. And that is the difference maker here. Gambit Esports taking the win, 2 points over Gamers Origin. Cababrilla, we're so close. Also, 5 points behind Gambit Esports. That's almost the difference between first and third, which is how this ultimately ended. What a tight race here in EU, even going down to 4th place, Lulu.
Yeah, and this is what happens when we see a new winner every single game. They're so close. It was so exciting to watch. And Gambit really, they showed up, they were consistent, and it shows. Grabbing first.
Yeah, I'm happy that, most of our teams to watch really did perform well here coming out. And so we got to see at least like 3 of them, I believe. Unfortunately, some teams just weren't able to rise to the occasion today. And, today was a pretty stacked lobby. And I think everyone so far has been leveling up their play. We're seeing, of course, everyone taking, I guess, like the TSM example, right? Rotating super early on. They've kind of set the pace now. It's like rotate at 2 minutes before the ring starts closing and stuff like that. And so it's becoming much more difficult to try play center circle. We're seeing a lot of teams try to play outer edge. But let's talk about also the team compositions coming out. While we were expecting a lot of Gibraltar, I think we got a lot more path than you might expect coming out from EU.
Yeah, and, we still saw some pretty intense Jibby Bubble fights there, but yeah, we saw a lot more of your basic Path, Wraith, and Watson combo, which seems to be working for a lot of teams. And, we did see a couple, Gibraltars, and did we see any Caustics?
Nope.
No Caustics.
I remember we saw there was a Crypto. And that's really about it. No, I don't remember a Caustic at all.
Yeah, so it seems like
it's the big four. Yeah. The big four. Sticking
to the usual compositions here.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But we do have more highlights coming out. It was a long 5 games being played out, grueling slugfest to the final moments every single game. And I don't know what highlights they have for us because there were so many throughout the entire day. Look at game number 1. This is the bridge ending to the east of Sorting Factory. And I think, this was a moment we were talking about, of course, who was it? The Riders of Rohan. Constantly getting into early game fights, and this was one of those early game fights where they just did not end up winning. I think they traded away, and they were ultimately cleaned cleaned up.
Yeah, and that's another. Oh, the scout plays. Another scout play. It's honestly, I love and hate the gun. I love and hate it. You see it everywhere.
And we were talking about the crypto. It was Na'Vi. Claus picking that up for his team as we have an outer edge fight. I believe this was game number 1. So yeah, they were playing on the eastern edge there. But it's the final moments, things like this, being able to win the 1v1 and clutching it out for your team, clutching out the victory, that did make a huge difference throughout the day because of how competitive our top 10, our top 5 were.
There were some hard circles today too, and that always makes for a more interesting a fight. And here we have the classic Jibby of bubble fights, and this was one we were talking about earlier with AHG cleaning up this fight.
Yeah, AHG playing on the north side, just north of Lava City, and because so many teams had rotated early on into Lava City, they were able to take that fight without getting third party. Gambit, again, game number 2, had a great performance here as well, picking up a lot of kill points.
Gambit was a really fun group to watch today. They really did show up, and here's that very crowded in circle. I believe that's the HG win right there, yep. They cleaned that up real nice.
And speaking of early fights, once again, Riders of Rohan getting into this fight here at Fragment West on the north side of it, getting cleaned up early, and they just weren't able to avoid a lot of this. And you know, we talk about the macro game and making your rotations part of that, and I think one of the biggest strengths of like teams like TSM, who are big on macro, is knowing how to avoid people on their rotations as well.
Exactly, and they're one of the really smart teams of they know when to fight, when not to fight, and learning that can be very, very big, especially early game when it's like, okay, we don't have what we need to fight right now. We need to leave. We need to rotate. We need to go somewhere else. And we saw Riders of Rohan fight 50-50 off spawn every single time, and I really thought them or Click would eventually switch up what they were doing.
I'm gonna be real here. I heard that in Hal's voice, just with a little bit more intensity. Just a little bit, just a little just a little bit more. But we're on board once again, I believe. This is the Powerpuff Bruvs. Got stuck here, sandwiched in the connector tunnel.
Tunnel death.
And yeah, this is when they got flanked by another team. You mentioned it. You got to make sure your back is cleared. That's 2 team fights in a row. 2 separate teams that didn't learn that lesson.
Yeah, and just holding that, like I said, if your back is 100% clear, it can be a good place to hold, but in their case, it wasn't. And this was the other great in-game playing around this circle, and I think it was Third Impact who looted 2 different boxes and couldn't get a full armor, trying to armor swap.
Yeah,
that was unfortunate.
That PK pop though looked so clean. You saw like almost every single pellet hit there except for like maybe 2. And AHG, I love this swap off they made, making a Matafe playing on that Wraith better suits his playstyle, and then I think overall just helps them as a team.
Yeah, and your Wraith is going to be one of your main aggressor there, and Matafe really he shows up on Wraith. He does a great job, and we saw that today.
Alright, just a heads up, it looks like there was a tie for 7 between Powerpuff Bruvs and Dead Inside, but per the tiebreaker rules, Powerpuff Bruvs win the tiebreaker and they will be taking 7th place.
Whew.
Hi. And we're back in, yeah. Again, I'm really impressed by our production team that were able to do all that math really quickly because, again, it was a toss-up. We had so many different winners. We didn't have, of course, just one team walking away with every first place or second place victory and just kind of being greedy and keeping all the points there. And so with that spread, we saw how close it was. I mean, the top 3 was separated by mere points.
Yeah, and I think it changes, the play style a little bit more when it's anybody's game. And when, if you have someone in first who's 20, 30 points in the lead, they're most likely going to take that home. But with such a close game, we just saw just smart plays, aggressive plays, and the same teams showing up because they knew they had a chance.
Yeah, and again, those minor, small little points there. If somehow, right, Gamers Origin at the end, they might have been able to win that 1v2, that would have been the victory for them. They would have been our first place winners. But Gambit, they had the numbers advantage. They had the 2v1. They cleared it out, and they were able to take that. Even though, I got to stress this, Gamers Origin beat them on points in that game. In that final game, they beat them by points. But overall, that's what matters. That's about playing consistently all day long. Gambit, I believe they started off with a 3rd or 4th place finish in game number 1, and they continued that trend, getting that victory at the end, getting the victory here for EU's online tournament number 3.
It really was just an exciting day for EU and their games. And like I said, when this happens, I love it. It's more exciting, and I can't wait to see EU play again.
All right, and it looks like we do have a couple tweets to share out from our community. One of my favorites coming out, of course, is going to be from Pittsburgh Knights Hotzik, who has recently done a stint coaching for the Golden Guardians. Holy at Play Apex stream just gave me a massive shout out, and I'm actually shaking. That's so freaking cool, man. Never imagined people would like the content I put out that much. I've got the biggest smile on my face right now. Thank you so much for the kind words, Brav. That's right. If you haven't checked out, I forget exactly what the video series he calls it, but Hotzik does a lot of VOD reviews for after every tournament, and so I believe he has a TSM one out now. And the TSM VODs, they're sub only and they get deleted pretty quickly. So for the rare chance to take a look at TSM VODs, you should go ahead and check out Hotzik